it going? We are here gathered to talk about the last episode of Game of Thrones. It was, I enjoyed the episode. I know that there are some others here that didn't, but I think there's a lot to unpack. So, really quickly introduce who I have here in the room. We have our Game of Thrones Fantasy League. This is my wife, Lita, my sister-in-law, Jess, cousin Eddie, Polly, and then brother-in-law, Mike. So, we're all in the same fantasy league. I am Tommy Pappas, Tomas Papas, Hey Mahelmeth, the Sellsword Sentinel. Go by many names, kind of like Bronn in tonight's episode. And I moderate sometimes for History of Westeros. We will have a couple other moderators on a little bit later, but first we're going to go to a live reaction. And really quick, I just want to get maybe 3 words or less, just your immediate reaction to this episode. And we'll start with Mike.
3 words.
3 or less. or less. You can do it. If you can do it in 1 word. I know you're a man of few words, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was one of those that was kind of disappointed with the episode. I would probably say maybe shallow, a little bit cheesy at times, and unsatisfying.
Okay.
Oh.
Polly.
Oh. I don't think that I didn't hate the episode. I wasn't super disappointed, but I am left feeling wanting more, and incomplete, maybe.
Okay.
I'm going to say predictable in certain ways that we can elaborate on later. Mild, like kind of lame, low energy, and well shot though. I'll say I like some of the shots that I saw and visually I thought it kind of was up to par with the rest of the season.
Cool. More than 3 words, but okay.
Yeah.
Lita.
It was fine.
Fine. Okay.
It was fine.
Oh, it
3
was.
words.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna count. Let's get
I like the episode, so I would say good. Poor John.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the low. Well, and I liked it as well. I would say my 3 words would be frustrating. Quality and also feels. So it definitely made me have some feels, and as Eddie said, we'll get into some of the specifics later that we'll unpack. But I want to ask Jess, as one of the lone people here that liked it, what was it that specifically you enjoyed?
I think there was a good amount of closure. Like, I think, like Sansa, for example, like I knew she would be a good leader. I love seeing her be like Lady of Winterfell and stuff. And Arya, I didn't quite know where her story was going to go. So I kind of liked her like going and doing her own thing, kind of let's see what else. Yeah, let's see what's out there and stuff. So I like that. Daenerys, Jon killing Daenerys, I think that was a good move. I liked that a lot.
How did Mike, how did you feel about that? Do you think, and being Mike's one of the, I think, is anyone else a book reader?
Smidge.
I
got the 1.5.
Mike's, yeah. So
yeah, they're like maybe half. Yeah.
Do you feel that's going to be how Dany dies in the books?
I mean, at this point, I have no idea. I mean, it could possibly be.
Yeah.
But I don't think I had any issue with that part of the episode. I thought it was fine. I had some issues with what happened immediately afterwards, which I thought was super cheesy. But the actual Dany stuff, I didn't have any issue with.
Anyone feel strongly about that scene?
I just liked the line that his final line to her, like, "You'll always be my queen," or like, "You always were and always will be my queen." Like, it was perfect because he's like not lying. He's true to who he is and his feelings, but he still like needed to kill her.
Yeah.
So that was the heartfelt part of it. Like it was. I thought it was a perfect way for her to die.
Perfect. And I think people watching who are book readers, there is the Azor Ahai and Nissa. That there are parallels there for sure, and I know a lot of people were upset about that being lacking from the 3rd episode, and just explanation in general, focusing on that story or prophecy. And I did like that aspect of it. I I was a little shocked. You know, I kind of thought that Arya was going to kill Drogon in the moments as
Yeah.
right
I thought
after,
that too. Yeah.
you know, as Drogon's coming up and he's getting ready and it looks like he's going to breathe fire on Jon. I really thought we were going to get that shot of her, you know, the arrow hitting him in the eye, and then a cut to Arya, you know, in a battlement or up top somewhere. You know, I don't know if I would have liked that better, you know, had they given us that. But does anyone here feel that ending or that would have been better than what they gave us?
I got a little emotional when Drogon was like kind of sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For
Yeah,
sure.
I like that.
No, for sure.
We were also like sort of joking, sort of not. Like Jon could just say Dany left, you know, like right, like so he had to, and they didn't really elaborate on that, but he had to have told somebody that he killed her
right,
because no one else was there to witness it.
and like Ned Stark, that's
He's
in his
honorable,
character,
yeah.
right? We know that I considered that too. Like, is there will Jon potentially say, well, she just flew away? You know, she went to go conquer someone else. She'll be back
Or people
soon.
are like, "Where's Dany?" He's like, I don't know. You know.
Yeah. And I think that was actually more so than, and I'm glad you guys brought that up because I would have forgot. More so than actually Jon killing Dany. What got me was the Drogon with the nudges, the few nudges, and then how gently he scooped her up and flies away. You guys all know that I'm kind of a new parent, and I imagine my baby boy nudging me and then picking me up with his toes, and flying away with me, and, my limp body.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. He likes to drop things, so I probably would have been dropped somewhere.
Mother of Dragons.
Somewhere.
Now, tell me, I have a question for you though. On the Azor Ahai, I mean, they didn't really reference that a lot on the shows, but like, we do know that's a thing. Do you really feel like that was brought to us? I don't know that it was.
No, I don't, and I don't know if that was just kind of the parallel I saw, because for those who don't know what Azor Ahai is, my attempt to do it really quickly is he was a swordsmith, and he tried making these swords, kept failing. First time he did it, plunge it into water, it breaks. He plunged it into the heart of a lion, it breaks, and then after working on it for I think it's double the time each time, he stabs it into the heart of his wife, and finally pulls it out, and he gets the Lightbringer, the sword that he ends up ending the long night with.
It's also like the prince that was promised.
The prince,
right? Or princess.
Well, I think those are
Daenerys.
separate. Those are technically separate prophecies, and we think they're talking about the same person. And we could go super in depth, and I'm not the person to do that. I know, kind of like a very skin deep knowledge of it, but I like to think that we're wondering who is it? Is it Jon? Is it Dany?
Yeah.
There's stuff. It could be Davos. I remember seeing videos of, and maybe this is the show saying that this is how they wanted to give us that nod of the hat, because there's Jon stabbing her in the heart, and it is kind of the parallel is there, as I said. And, a bunch of people are going to pick up on that. They're going to run with it. It's the show, as Mike said. I don't know. They've made so many different decisions that the books are certain to be different in all the great possible ways that we can hope for. So another question I had, and this will kind of take it through the episode, but did anyone else feel at the beginning when Tyrion does the walk, was that the same walk that Cersei did? The walk of shame. And then he says he wants to do it alone. So then I felt like that was, to me, like, oh, he's making the same walk his sister made, just in a different manner.
I don't know.
So we'll maybe save that if there are people in the chat. John, is there anyone watching? You can't tell.
What we were thinking, like Lita and I were both nodding our heads. We thought that when Tyrion came behind Dany, we the three of us, we kind of thought. I thought maybe he had a knife and he was going to stab her and just sacrifice himself. Like you guys thought he was maybe going to push her down the stairs.
Yeah.
And she actually would have been a really easy way.
I thought he was going to stab her with his handpin. Why not? Just
No, but I really thought the way he looked like menacing, and he was coming up behind, and he was trusted, and he was so upset and emotional.
Well, that's so much better if that happened.
I thought at that moment that he was just completely defeated. Like he was just
No, I think that is.
He already
what it was.
sacrificed himself. I mean, he already betrayed her, so it's like, why not go all the way and just kill her? I don't know.
After he saw Jaime and Cersei, I mean, I just feel like
he
he was crushed seeing the two of them.
Yeah, crushed.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things, this is nitpicky, I will admit, and I liked the episode. I felt like if Jamie and Cersei had stood like 40 feet over to the right, they wouldn't have been crushed.
Maybe,
Didn't it appear that way?
We were all
Like,
saying, like, we thought that it was really like
They missed it. They
like,
missed
like,
it.
caved in, and we were like,
Yeah.
wow, they're very accessible.
It literally looked like they were in a cavernous room and stood in the one place
Yeah,
where
right,
rubble
totally.
came down.
You know, I would have liked that better. Maybe Jamie actually brought her in under the rubble and killed. I would have. If that had happened, I would have been happy with them dying that
Well,
way.
especially since you
She
have
killed her.
you have Jamie in the fantasy league, and that would have been a killer
Yeah.
drafted character.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
That's
Your
true.
reasoning is not altruistic.
Yeah, my guys kind of flamed out at the end. Like,
Well, and let's get to that. Let's talk about it really fast. And we don't have the scoring. It's something I score manually. Watch the episodes a bunch of times.
Thank you, Tommy. We should all give you a round of applause. Thank you, Tommy.
But just so we kind of knew going into this where everyone was. There was, Eddie and I were neck and neck. Jess had made some big leaps. Lita was charging in.
Bottom.
Charging in late. Grey Worm,
Ron didn't do like anything.
but Grey Worm was like
No.
slaughtering dudes.
Cersei barely did anything.
And so it's tough. But,
Disappointing.
but
yeah.
so what do we think? How do we think
Who
the?
won?
Yeah, just
Who
kind
did
of
Jon
off your
Snow?
Christopher, who's the one member of the pod not here.
he's not here, but he was also pretty far
Jono
behind.
had
I don't
Bran,
think he could.
right?
Jono had Bran.
Oh,
Jono-
Bran's on the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
That's
And,
huge
you had
points.
Sansa, she's a
75,
queen,
yeah.
so that gets
Oh,
us-
she's a queen.
so-
Yeah, I was
so
like,
that
yes,
does good.
lots of points.
So that gets points too as a queen.
Because she's earned me like 2 points so
Yeah,
far.
yeah.
So
Yeah, some
Yeah,
eating and
that
drinking points.
Yeah, I feel like Tyrion had a lot of opportunities to really surge ahead, but
He didn't really do anything
he
either.
didn't, and he had every
Yeah.
opportunity to.
He was
They even
in the-
offered him the throne, and he said no.
And,
What
and
are you doing?
And he was in like almost
They didn't
all.
really offer it, but
I had the Night King, and he
Yeah.
did
Oh.
virtually nothing.
Yeah.
oh, that was.
guys, I have Gilly and she's pregnant, but yet no points.
She doesn't even get screen time this episode.
I
Right.
know,
Sam,
no
where-
points.
where is
No
Gilly?
points.
I think
No
that's,
points. She's the only one who's knocked up. No points.
No
That's
one
really
cares
good.
where Gilly is.
I know.
Uh,
I mean,
the-
she was like my last choice, but
the
still,
fandom
0
does care.
points.
The
Oh,
fandom
I'm
does
sorry.
care.
Sorry.
The fandom cares about Gilly.
Love
'Cause
Gilly.
she's a-
My girl.
Well, and
let's-
again, she's pregnant, but yet no points for
And
sex.
And in a
Just
show
saying.
where we don't have a lot of
Yeah.
fantastic mother role models, she's a great, fantastic mother
That's
role model,
true.
you know?
Yeah.
So we do have that. Another thing I noticed since we were talking about the scene with Tyrion and Dany, I was getting for the first time, I had sent Aziz from History of Westeros a message because in the last episode, I was getting Hitler vibes from Cersei, and it was more so
Yeah.
as King's Landing's falling, and she's talking about the fleet that has just been destroyed, and the faithfulness, and the how hard the Lannister fighters or soldiers are going to fight, and it was just bullshit, right? It was already crumbled. And she couldn't recognize what was clearly in front of her face, which was defeat. And that's the way Hitler was in his last days. There was a really interesting excerpt from Hitler's last days where it's almost, to me, it was eerie how similar it was, where I thought it had to be intentional. And then in this episode, where you had the Dothraki and you had the Unsullied and the way they were aligned, and her on the column, and the Targaryen flag dropped.
Yeah.
It almost looked like a swastika.
Yeah.
The way that it had, and then
Yeah.
the speech that she gives, extreme vibes. And then you take it even further, and we talk about Targaryens and Valyria, and we talk about, and it is kind of like a eugenics type of way of thinking, where they breed with their brothers and sisters because they want to keep the bloodline pure.
Yeah.
And then that's nothing new. Obviously, people have talked about that before, but that scene really hit it home and was very visually powerful.
Yeah.
And another one that we talk about, for people who didn't like this season, and there's a lot of people who didn't like this season. We just talked about the scene with Drogon and Dany, and in the books, especially Fire and Blood, and a lot of the stuff that deals with Dance of the Dragons, we have a lot of scenes where people are where a dragon rider dies and their dragon screams out in agony. We actually get to see that in this episode, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So we do want to take a couple seconds just to acknowledge that Jessica here is a gendery thirst queen. So
I didn't say that. I
No,
just
no,
felt like
yeah,
he
you
was
were
due.
gender
I felt like he
thirsty.
was due.
he was
Yeah.
due, yeah. No, I mean, you sent some very borderline erotic messages to start the season regarding
Tell me,
gender.
you're my brother-in-law. I didn't send you erotic messages.
No,
Let's be
they were-
clear.
they
Like,
were
this is
erotic.
on the internet.
They were
They
inappropriate.
were not erotic
Inappropriate.
messages.
There might have been a couple pics that
Oh
she
my
wishes
God.
were taken down.
Oh my
Okay, so we're gonna play a game. Is there a timer on that thing? No. Okay.
God.
No. You're good right there. So what I want to do
Jim was
is
just like, I don't know.
I'm gonna
Just says
Oh
bright
my
guys.
God.
earlier today. Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick little stopwatch. Earlier today, I gave myself 30 seconds. And I named as many sexual positions that I could have sex with gender.
No, wait. Oh my God.
I give you 30 seconds to name. Mike, you give her a free pass for this, right? Yeah, totally. Okay,
This
cool.
is my brother-in-law. This is
Yeah,
weird.
this
This
is-
is so weird.
It's not about Tommy, it's about Gendry.
Yeah. Well, I'm not asking
So
you.
just picture
Picture
him.
Gendry. Picture Gendry sitting there sultry, maybe working on his anvil.
I think I'm going to take my 30 seconds to clarify that Gendry
All right,
is
30
on my
seconds.
team, and I knew he was due for some sex scenes. That's all. That's all. And there was definitely some stuff brewing with him. I knew he was going to come back.
You,
And I was right. Like,
you predicted
Arya?
that he'd have 5 sex scenes this season.
There was she, and this is actual.
Here's my
So
prediction.
this is the truth.
Are you doing this
Yeah.
so much? Go
Yeah.
sexual position.
I kind of wanted to state my piece, but anyway,
Sure,
okay,
no.
my doggy style, missionary. I think we're done.
Okay, go.
Whatever, 30
There's the
seconds.
30 seconds.
But no, I felt like Gendry, though. I just
Yeah.
felt like he was due for some sexual whatever, and him stuff was brewing with him and Arya. And I also thought he maybe had a chance at either being killed or taking the throne because he was Robert Baratheon's next of heir. So I just figured I'd get some points with him. I didn't get that many points though.
So how many did you get?
She got 2 in
Yeah.
30 seconds, and she got the 2 that everyone knows. So, so.
Oh, I thought you meant points in the no.
Yeah. How many positions?
I felt
Okay.
like I needed to
How
state my
many did you
case.
What's
How
up?
many did you name?
I actually got 32.
Oh,
He didn't have to justify why his
Yeah.
brother-in-law was asking about sexual positions.
No, I didn't have to. It was steamy. You 100% claimed that there was going to be 5 full butt shots of Gendry, is what it was.
Well, I thought 10 points. I think it was good for at least 10 points. I was wrong,
And
guys.
when we
I was
questioned
wrong.
why you thought 5 butt shots, it's because you said he was banging at least 5 times. So, yeah. So,
who was he banging?
well,
I just thought he was due. I thought he was
Oh,
due.
Yeah.
But, well, and I didn't even get a butt shot.
No,
Yeah.
you didn't. You got Arya's butt, I think. Maybe a little side
But
bit.
that wasn't me. She
No, I
wasn't
know,
my
I know, yeah.
person. Yeah.
Um,
Gendry.
So okay, so now we get to the point after after Dany's been killed. Mike, you said you had some issues with this especially, so I'll give you some time to elaborate on those.
Oh, I mean, I just meant that the Drogon melting down the Iron Throne
Oh.
was just.
That was a
I was
little
on the
much.
fence about this episode before that, but when that
Yeah.
happened, I was just like, "What? Seriously?"
They have to hammer you over the head with it.
Like, I don't know
I
if you
don't-
were on the fence.
Of this episode, yeah.
Okay.
On the ride over here, I was telling him predictions, and Mike was like, "Yeah, no, all that crap." And I was like, "Do you just want to go home?"
Kind of.
I don't know why I'm calling on the fence. Let's just put it that way.
And then how do you guys feel about Bran being chosen king?
I didn't like that, to be honest. I mean, it seems like the idea that Bran was kind of like the genesis for the war and like the reason why all of this story kind of started. That he would end up being like the reason how it ends, or like him being at the end of it makes sense. But in that sense, I felt it was a little predictable. And 2, he didn't deserve it. I don't think. Like, I can't believe that this whole like council or representatives council is sitting there and not one of them suggests Jon Snow to be the king.
Mhm.
Like that just seems
Yeah.
that's unrealistic. It's like he's the leader, he's the warrior, he's the king of the North.
Yeah.
And he's the true leader of the kingdoms, and nobody's like, what about Jon? Everybody's like, let's go to Bran. Come
Bran
on.
basically did nothing to show that he's a leader or an administrator or anything.
Exactly.
He just kind of
He just knows a lot of stuff.
And also, if-
like, that's
Yeah.
If Drogon hadn't flown away, like what if Drogon was just like, okay, you're a Targaryen, you're my guy now. Like it's just us
I
now.
thought
And
that
then
was
Jon
gonna
has a
happen, too.
dragon, and then Jon could just, be the king. Why didn't that happen?
Well, I kind of also felt too, like, it felt a little rushed, right? So Tyrion, and we knew things were going to be rushed, right? Like at this point. But it's like Tyrion's in a cell for a couple weeks and he comes back and he's like, I've given this a lot of thought, guys. It should be Bran. And everyone's like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, what? Yeah, so I'm with you, Eddie. Like,
I would have liked.
I do feel like John would have been a little more due and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I would have been.
It would have been much more deserved. Like even that would have been perhaps predictable as well, but like still better than Bran. Like
Well, or I kind of feel like I could have understood Bran becoming king, but it just felt so sudden and abrupt, right?
And then-
if there had been things to lead up
And
to
then-
make
Yeah.
like him deserve it.
what happened to Bran being like three-eyed raven? Like I'm a bird now. Like all of a sudden, actually, just kidding. I'm a king now. Ha ha! Fooled ya.
Yeah, that was one of my
Like,
problems.
what?
Is that he
Come
wouldn't
on.
accept the Lord of Winterfell, but he would be the king.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think one of the bigger questions is, okay, so now that we have, I mean, a couple seconds to step back and look at the season as a whole, do we look at the scene where Bran kind of influences Sam to tell Jon about his true parentage?
Ooh.
Do we look at that a little differently now?
Like he was manipulating the situation.
100%.
He knew it was
Because
going to happen.
because let's be honest, like one of the main reasons Dany, I think, goes mad queen is because she feels 100% alone. And one of the last pieces to like make her feel 100% alone was kind of putting a wall or something between her and Jon.
yeah.
And it was his, a lot of people theorize, and I don't necessarily agree with this 100%, that it's his rejection of her the night before that really was the convincing factor for her to burn the city. I think that she still was undecided as the bells were ringing, but I think there's a strong case to be made for the other side of the argument. And if that's the case, then how do we look at Bran? And is he a good? I mean, he seems pretty neutral as far as how he tries to present himself.
Because he has no
but-
emotion.
well,
Right.
yeah, that's how he presents it. But then it's like, well, then he says, he's like kind of like snarky, right? Well, why do you think I came all the way down?
Exactly.
Yeah,
What do you think I'm here for?
So do you have a sense of humor or not?
Yeah.
Abraham?
Right.
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
Maybe I can go find him.
Yeah, exactly. I guess he's my dragon now.
Yeah. So I mean, those are some of my issues. I'm wondering if anyone else got the same vibe when we were watching it at the very end. Now I'm going to start to jump around. We've got a couple minutes here before 10:05, but as Jon's being led by the Night's Watch and he's going to his boat, you see Grey Worm. Did anyone feel we were going to get another kind of like mutinous stabbing of Jon, where you had him killed by either Grey Worm and his men or something there on the docks?
Yeah, I
felt
thought I felt that too. That Grey Worm wasn't done fighting.
Oh, I felt the opposite. I thought like, well, maybe they'll boat off and then like they'll actually like let Jon into whatever, like take it back kind of thing. Because I felt like Jon, I feel like they made him a scapegoat, is what it really felt like.
Well, totally, right? And I think that I heard the discussion earlier. It was like his honor, right? Like he would have to kind of give up or lose his honor to do what was right for everyone or the realm.
Well, it was a prediction on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. History of Westeros. Shout out to Aziz and the show.
Yeah.
Who are out there, hopefully, maybe tuning in at this point, but probably not. But you watch it later, I'm sure. And so here's something funny about this, and I know you guys are unaware of this, but I want to get your reaction to this. So Grey Worm at the end is like, okay, we're going to go to Noth, and that's where Missandei's from. Missandei, there was that talk that they had that discussion where he's like, well, like we have no one to protect us. He's like, oh, well, we'll go there and we'll protect you. And it seems like Grey Worm's getting kind of a happy ending, right? Here's the fucked up part about Noth, right? It's this island of just beauty, and there's these pleasure palaces, and but the people are peaceful. But people who have stayed there too long, they start dying, and because of these butterflies. They don't know, but it's really alluded to heavily that foreigners who go there, like the people who are born there, they build up an immunity, and anyone who stays there too long is killed. So these Unsullied who aren't born there, they're going to go there to protect them, and they're all going to die of the butterflies. So that's
Is that just in the book or is it in the show?
well, it's in the book. So I mean, we have to. The book readers, we have to assume that's
How it is.
what we're going to get. The Unsullied are going to die by butterfly. And then, Mike, a question for you specifically. I was wondering, did you get Blood Raven vibes from John? As we know, not necessarily that he was going to become a Third Eye Raven or the Third Eye Crow or anything like that, but perhaps that he was going to abandon his vows and go north in the final scene, as you see him kind of going, and the gate shuts and he kind of turns and gives that look. Any vibes that maybe John is going to go live with the free folk out and Ghost?
I mean, I guess now that you bring it up, yeah, it didn't occur to me at the time, but yeah.
That's what we thought.
I think we all just assumed it.
I
Yeah,
hope
we were just
that's
like,
the
okay, he's
case.
wildling now.
He deserves a much better fate than being banished to the wall again. I mean, I felt like that was such like he deserved a hero's ending. Instead, he gets banished back to the wall to serve out the rest of his days. He better not keep his celibacy. He better get out there, find another egret, and start busting, yelling Dracarys. He deserves it.
Well, the only thing is though, John's not like clever enough to be a Blood Raven.
Well, he deserves better than the wall.
But
He
does-
deserves better than the wall.
Is the wall really
Maybe a Mance
standing
Raider?
the way that it
Yeah,
was after the dragon came and like took it down?
Well,
Should we still
there's just
assume?
a chunk of it.
Yeah,
I
they
think.
don't need it anymore.
Well,
right?
they really don't, and I think there was a line Tyrion said, where John was like, "Dude, is there even a Night's Watch anymore?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, we still need to protect from something," So, I don't look at it. I don't look at it as necessarily a bad thing. The North is independence. His sister, or no, not his sister. It would be his cousin.
Cousin.
His cousin,
Yeah.
his cousin is there in control. I don't know. It was weird. That was one of the ones that I felt was frustrating. I actually laughed when they said, "Oh, that Bran is sending you to the wall," because it just seems so preposterous. We're just like, this is okay. Oh,
Why didn't
Word
somebody
up.
just kill Bran and say, "Come on, it's John.
Word up.
John's
Yeah.
the king. Come on."
I do like that, like Sansa though, like apologized to him. Like she felt bad about it, right? She was
Right.
like, "I'm sorry." We just felt like there was no other way, and everyone else is like, Bran just fucking gives him a stare and like whatever, Everyone else just
Yeah.
kind of let it happen. Again, I felt like he was a scapegoat. I did like that Sansa though felt bad about it and was like, "I'm sorry because we don't want this for you," kind of thing.
And then before we go, I'm just wondering any other scenes or just parts of the episode that we haven't touched on that you guys felt, you wanted to either say a couple bits about or felt strongly one way or another.
I love that Sansa asked for the North again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was.
I'm surprised it was like, okay.
I'm surprised
yeah,
no one else
sure.
asked for
Yeah.
independence. Like,
Yeah.
how about the Greyjoys? They don't want to be ruled.
I thought that was coming. I
Right.
thought that was coming. When she said it and you saw Asha Yara kind of look and be like, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go. It's going to be like,
Everyone's
I'm like, well, I want it. And Bran's just like,
Okay.
Branning.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, it was kind of that scene where you have all the rulers. It's one I think I have to go back and watch. My initial feelings is that one didn't work for me. But also, I don't know what you're supposed to do with one episode in so little time, and you have to
Yeah.
resolve all of this shit. And I said earlier, I felt that if they had given this entire episode to just Bran and talking about stuff that had been going on in past episodes and what's going on with him now and how this ends up, it wouldn't have been enough for me. I felt like there was still been shorted. And it was just it's a tough situation to be in. I don't know how they would have done it sufficiently.
This final season probably could have been like easily 2 or 3 seasons.
Absolutely.
It should have been.
Yeah.
That's the disappointing thing. I think things were kind of rushed because they had this short time frame. One thing I want to say is I do like the fact that we got to see some of those people as rulers. Like we saw Sam and we saw Yara again and stuff. I really liked that. And I also liked seeing the small council. Like I didn't know what was, and the Bronn stuff still kind of irks
Bronn
me a
on the
little.
small council.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break.
Weird.
Bronn is
That's
But I'm
his
just like,
point.
honestly,
That's his
in
point.
the last 10 minutes,
There's
I'm
no
like, glad
way.
we
This
saw
guy's
him.
the
I
money
didn't think
guy
we were
now.
gonna see him again.
Yeah.
You
No
know?
way in hell that Bronn is the master's point.
Yeah, I know.
Give me a break.
He does know how to strike a bargain, though. He's really good at getting what
But
he
no, like
wants.
seeing
Yeah.
Sam
That's
as
the part
like
of glorified
High Maester
accountant.
and stuff, like I liked seeing the small council because I didn't think we were gonna get either one of those. I didn't think we were gonna see a lot of characters again, and then I didn't think we were gonna see the small council. So I do think I liked that closure. But you're right, some of it was ridiculous. And the Bronn thing with like the bow and stuff, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was stupid.
Yeah, no, not a.
It didn't wrap up though as well.
The Bronn story, I think some of the Bronn stuff they did at the end is, and also the feeling of it being rushed, or some of the more universal feelings of fans that are, I think, justifiable and have a lot of credence to them. we're really quickly going to have you guys step off and have Jono come in.
Yeah.
Jono, my brother's been manning the chat that's, I guess, non-existent. He doesn't see it.
Mike, or he might not know how to work the chat.
I got, I'm over here. I can see some other things. Looks like it's going. Looks like it's going.
Hopefully it's going.
Yeah, hopefully we're actually live casting.
Yeah. It would have been awesome if it was just a whole bunch of nothing.
Please tell me it's a whole bunch of nothing.
Did you check?
Do it where?
Well, it says broadcasting on the Google.
What's all that's
Yeah, there's people in chat.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Already
I was like, I don't know.
There you go.
All right.
Oh yeah, it literally says live chat.
Okay, cool. All right, everyone, this is my brother Jono.
Yeah.
Jono has been manning the chat really well.
There's people on their chat, man.
Yeah, okay, cool, yeah.
It's like,
I've been manning it up.
Yeah, there could be like hate crimes happening in the chat right now. Jono is also a book reader.
Yeah.
And we don't have a ton of time. Laura and Jennifer, if you're watching, can we push back maybe 2 or 3 minutes? Because we're going to do something with Jono here. And if not, then it's all right. You guys can join in and watch. Jono, talk a little bit about how you came into the books, which would it be accurate to say I basically bullied you into it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I just forced it upon me.
So, yeah,
I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I bullied the books upon Jono. So Jono's now no longer an Unsullied. He's fully immersed in all. You've read everything, right?
I'm almost done with Fire and Blood.
Okay.
So
I want to just we'll keep it pretty brief. But your thoughts on the series as a whole, and whether you feel that the books will be at least. Do you think John? Well, let's start with. Do you think John will kill Danny?
I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was like right, and John's never really done that before. I don't think he's always like shied away from killing that person. And I think like in this episode, like, that was one thing he just couldn't ever do was kill that someone and sacrifice them. But he always walked away from that. But in the books, I don't think so. I don't see it happening. No.
And then your feelings on the series as a whole as it wrapped up. Were you positive or
yeah? I mean,
I
was just I guess have more questions than anything after watching that episode, and I'm surprised that listening to you guys talk about your favorite parts. I know you probably really like this part, the Brienne part. And, yeah,
I didn't even.
Oh, yeah.
How about that one?
Yeah, that was something I was really.
I thought that was probably the more touching moments, that Tyrion finding Jaime and his sister. I mean, I don't know like how he found them, but that was a touching moment too. But that Brienne one I thought was really good.
No, and that was a question I submitted to History of Westeros, where I asked if they thought that Brienne would. And again, like, it's one of these things where when you have something that's so popular, and there's so many people thinking about it and coming up with it, that there was a million people coming up with this idea, so I can't claim it as being an original or anything along those lines. But I do remember thinking that this would be really cool. Maybe some people are disappointed that we didn't get an answer on whether or not Jaime and Brienne she was pregnant with Jaime's, but we did not get that. So, Jono, a game I wanted to play with you really fast, and we'll have to give some context to the game, but it's called Papa Pappas versus Game of Thrones characters. And so the idea of the game is I'm going to give you a character from Game of Thrones, and you have to tell us if you think our dad would beat that person in a fight to the death.
Just like
Hand-to-hand combat, fight to the death. And then so a lot of people are gonna be like, "What the fuck is this game about?" Jono, explain our dad. Try to describe our dad to people who may not have ever seen him.
He's like 60 years old and he's still a savage, man. He's incredible. He's just built. He's angry.
Like, whose body would you compare him to? Someone from the cast of 300?
Yeah, that's probably very accurate.
With Patrick Swayze's head.
Yes. Yeah. Like,
All right.
a much more built, angry Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing.
Okay. Well, I'm
Yes.
yeah. The audience says yes. So, okay, we're gonna start with a few people. So we're gonna say Tormund Giantsbane versus Papa Pappas.
Oh man. Just because of how Tormund grew up and he loves fighting, I'd have to give it to him on this one.
Okay.
I think he takes Papa Pappas.
But let's say Tormund Giantsbane passed Papa Pappas while you were a little kid in the back seat and gave Papa Pappas the middle finger.
Oh yeah, no, that wouldn't fly. You turn around and make sure that you were laying out on the ground afterwards.
Papa
Yeah.
Pappas versus Jaime Lannister in his prime.
Oh, Papa Pappas for
Okay.
sure.
Papa
For
Pappas versus the Hound.
Oh man, that'd be a good one. I say they both die in that fight.
They both die. It's a tie.
Yeah. For
Papa,
sure.
Papa Pappas versus Drogon.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to take drugs.
I respectfully disagree, but I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Do we have two people? Do we have Laura and Jennifer in the chat yet? No?
Oh, Laura's in the chat. Oh
Laura's
yeah,
in
they're
the
both in the chat.
They're both in the chat. Perfect. Jono, thank you.
Yep.
We'll hopefully have you on here a little bit later.
Yep.
We got Laura and Jennifer in the
do
chat. Can we hear them?
I mean, do they need to log into the Hangouts?
Are they not? Oh, they're in the chat, but they're
They're
not.
in the YouTube chat.
Okay. Yeah, Laura, Jen, if you guys want to click the link to get into the chat, we'll start you guys here in a second. I'm just going to go through a couple other random thoughts that I had throughout the episode, and I definitely wanted to make sure that I got these. One of my favorite parts of this episode, hands down, was again, it's in the. I feel like the episode was really strong during this stretch where they had, the opening scene. Even though there were a couple of things that I found continuity-wise off of that, but then with Dany on the ruins, all the way through to that small council scene. But the shot where Dany's coming down and Drogon lifts his wings, and it looks like Dany is a dragon
yes,
almost.
yeah.
And, you get this idea that she's now transformed. That was, I think, one of the more well done things. This is something that I'm really interested in, is if there's someone in the chat that has any idea how many times we've had Tyrion be a prisoner. So we have Catelyn taking him. We have Jorah taking him. I believe there's several times where he is, kind of in and out of captivity throughout the time when he's with Dany. In the books, it gets a little muddy because in the books, then it's when he's with Penny and the Sellsword Company. So, just curious if anyone.
Cersei got him too after wasn't he captured after the Purple Wedding?
Yeah, he was on trial then, and prisoner there,
Yeah.
and Jaime releases him. So we have
And Eerie, he's had a couple trial by combats and stuff.
100%.
He's a master of getting out too.
Yeah.
And I think his way of getting out this time was as good as any. He invoked John's Night Watch oath to make him realize you have dividing loyalties here. Your ultimate loyalties to the Night's Watch, the Protector, and he convinced John to do what he had to do.
He did a good job convincing John.
Do you want to look at some of the live chat comments?
Actually, we'll have Eddie and Jess come on over here. Yeah,
both of us.
both of you guys.
All right.
Yeah. Is there anything specifically? Are there questions in the chat? Anything?
Eddie, I kind of want to sit.
Go for
It's
it.
okay. Do you want to share the seat
it's
with
'cause
me?
I was out of frame when I was-
Yeah.
I
Why
was
don't you
standing
tell me?
earlier. You
I
want
can
to
do
share?
There we go.
There's some observations. Like Rory says that Game Bowl was basically Sandor versus Papa Pappas.
Okay, that I think that's fairly accurate. And I was gonna say it's funny that he says that because when we brought up John or my dad versus the Hound, I was like, that's the real Clegane Bowl that we all deserve.
When Mike said that comment, oh, thank you. I got this horn that I've
Yeah.
apparently got to fill.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
You
make
know-
a giant milk horn. Let's.
You have to work tomorrow. You know that, right?
I do know, yes. And my boss is a bitch.
Yeah.
But no, what's funny is when Mike said that comment, I think we're good. I think we're good. When Mike said that comment, all I could think about was the scene where it's like stabbed in the eye and it's just like no big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, the leaking?
I think so. Yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
drink it.
fast.
Drink up.
I want to say one more thing in honor of Brienne of Tarth, that she should have dragged Jamie's ass in that book. She should have just wrote like incestuous asshole deserves to die, fought the night, and then left
Like been a little petty.
left her for his sister the next morning. That motherfucking asshole dead to me. Rip out his pants, tear it up, burn it, girl.
No, see that was
Burn it.
that was one of the parts I was actually most
He deserves so much worse.
most happy with. Was her finish. You know, it's something that we talked about. I just think
They had a mutual respect. I
it's
think.
just
yeah.
beautiful. I think. I mean, it would have been cool if she
True.
mentioned that he got dick down real hard.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like he.
Throw her in. She should have put herself in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
I mean,
No doubt.
and we should talk a little bit about. You know, we have Podrick, Sir Podrick in the King's Guard.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We-
Oh, okay.
You know,
Sorry,
we it'd be amiss to not talk about that. I think that was a cool thing. We can have it off screen, but I think we can assume that Sir Brienne was the one that knighted Podrick, which would
Yeah.
be super fitting. I would have perhaps liked to see less of the small council, more of that scene. Maybe, you know, give me something like that. That would have been a nice reward.
Yeah. See him being knighted and yeah.
Yeah.
He came up so far.
Yeah, I think that would have been an excellent scene. And then Eddie, let's talk about Dario.
Oh, yeah, no show this season, obviously.
Do you want to give some context to the audience?
So, I mean, I was really buying into the thought that Dario wouldn't leave his princess when he found out that she was headed into the war of the living and the dead. Like, how can he just stay in the East and let his queen fight that war without him? And especially a rule breaker like him, I thought he would for sure show up at some point this season. And obviously I was wrong. I bet Tommy $20 on it. I lost. So
is there? It says it won't let Laura in, and then is Jennifer in?
I don't see anyone else. Yeah.
Okay.
by the way, still nothing. Dario could, yeah. I mean,
He
maybe he'll
can
wake
still
up
come back in like another episode. That's not going to happen.
I guess, yeah.
Well, we'll just hold. You know, you can keep the $20 until
Maybe, yeah.
until we know of any. We know what all the successor shows are going to be.
I think they're all prequels though.
Well, that's
That's what they're saying so far.
George has said that I believe that they're all rumored to be sequels. But I'll say this: I never thought with that being said, I never thought that I would want a spin-off show of the current season. But for fans out there, especially fans of Fire and Blood, there was a specific Alyssa Farman vibe from Arya, who, you know, she steals three dragon eggs. Those and I probably should have said this from the beginning, guys. Spoiler alerts. I don't know if I can go back and probably not. But if you haven't read Fire and Blood, we could possibly even touch on some Winds of Winter chapters. But yeah, spoiler alert, guys. We're going to talk about everything here. So
log off if you don't want spoilers.
All right. And then here, I'm going to give you this, Lita. They're having some problems with getting on the link. So
Mike, you need to.
these are
like
the.
if they're going onto Google, you have to like allow them.
I already sent
Google
them. I
Hangouts.
sent them an invite, but Mike, if you want to invite them again, we can.
Just
But
know how to
usually-
use it.
What? I know how to use Google Hangouts.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
We'll just don't worry the technical difficulties here. I should say that I do know that or Laura and Jennifer are mods over at History of Westeros, and I had the opportunity to do a panel with Laura. That panel went terrific. The other panel went really well, but we had some technical difficulties there that were very trying, and that's why we in the community will say Ashea is the best, because she does deal with these things and is quite well versed at them. So Where were we before we did all that, Eddie?
No, there was some Daria. How do you feel about Arya's resolution to go explore off on her own?
Oh, yeah, so we were talking. Yeah, so Alyssa Farman. So like there's a girl in Fire and Blood who is romantically linked to a Targaryen and eventually steals 3 dragon eggs. And this is where the spoiler comes in. The 3 dragon eggs that she steals are strongly implied to be the 3 dragon eggs that Dany gets later in the books, which is the tie into all this. But Alyssa Farman in Fire and Blood sails west of Westeros. So when Arya says, what's west of Westeros? And, they say nobody knows. Alyssa Farman did. And then one of the Valerians was actually, so the Valerians were a very successful ship-faring family, kind of like cousins to the Targaryens. In one of their histories, they believe they see Alyssa Farman's boat in Asshai, which would mean that if she sailed west, she successfully circumnavigated. Again, there's no real confirmation that Alyssa Farman was ever truly, got there. Maybe members of her ship did, but as far as the Arya plot goes, that's where I was kind of going. The one spinoff I wouldn't mind having would be maybe an Arya explorer, Queen of the Seas. Going and seeing some of these places we haven't seen necessarily in the books, or we have read about in the books but never seen on the show. That would be something I could get into. Would you guys enjoy an Arya spinoff?
I think I would. And as of right now, though, they said that none of the main characters are going to be part of the shows. But I wonder if they did that so it could be open, because HBO would love to have an Arya show, right?
Oh my God, right. And, I just wonder, Maisie Williams, being young and having the opportunity to potentially get out and do something different with her career.
Yeah.
I wonder if, because otherwise she runs the risk of being Arya for her entire life.
Yeah.
And she has a lot of things going for her.
Other emails?
I don't, but I think if you could open another tab and go to Facebook, you could probably pick up their that same messenger and then send me links to that. Or you can ask.
We could FaceTime them too.
Yeah, or you could just ask what their emails are in the chat, and then they can give them to us. Okay. And Alyssa Farman, she is pretty cool, and she stole dragon eggs, and Arya's giving me an Alyssa Farman vibe.
So we know that those a few of the spinoffs, or whatever you would want to call them, are already in the works, and one had been already canceled. And that they said that none of the existing characters would appear in.
One's been canceled, so are there 3 now?
The Brian Cogman one is not going to air, and that one was rumored to be a Blackfire Rebellion spinoff. But
so then there's also this petition online that is basically a whole lot of nonsense to make the final season. If one of the spinoff ideas might try to continue this storyline,
Jenny.
that John,
we got it to work. Yeah.
could take off with Gendry or something somewhere, and
Do you have your drink?
I feel like this ending left everything so still kind of like unsatisfying and like open to more like John is John really just gonna hang out at the wall for the rest of his life?
Well, he's a wildling now.
Would you guys say it's bittersweet?
We'll just hang out here.
That was the term
Doing
we kept
everything
getting.
twice.
Yeah.
There's an echo.
The John killing
there's an
Dany was
echo?
bittersweet, but I would have liked for that to have more meaning and that he would have taken the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I felt like things were rushed too, right? So it's like, Tyrion made his case and then he killed Dany, but again, it happened in 5 minutes, right?
What's
like,
up with
whereas normally it probably would have spread out over numerous episodes. You're right. Like maybe John would have been.
What's up
maybe
with
vying
Bran
for
basically telling John that he has the claim to the throne, and then like as soon as it's offered to him, he's like, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
but I don't want it.
Yeah.
What do you think I'm doing here? Like, come on.
Sounds like we got Laura and Jen in the chat. So, do we have?
Hang out.
Do they have audio?
Can you guys say something?
Wait. I don't know. Do we have audio?
So you may have to put the headphones on the audio jack, and then you might just have to tell me when.
Hey, Jenny. How are you? Good. How are you? Good.
Can the people in the chat hear them?
Volume.
You, I think.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Can the people in the chat hear Jen and Laura? And then you're gonna have to play
No idea.
the aux. And then Mike, just give me like a finger point when they're done talking and when I can go.
What is
Do
he
you
asking
want
about?
to
Yeah, how about
actually?
Where I'm nervous about that not being long enough. You guys hold
Oh, yeah.
both of my drinks.
Sure.
Just right here.
Are you guys there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we go. Hello? No? Are they talking?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. We just can't hear them. This is one.
I can hear, I think.
I can hear Jenny.
Yeah, I can hear Laura.
I can hear Jenny. I can hear you guys. But you guys can't hear us?
Yeah, I don't think they
And
can hear
then,
us.
I'm gonna give you
Oh,
the
wow.
headphones and you just.
I had
you
to
guys
mute
talk
you
until we
two
can
because
get
I
them
could
on
hear
there,
like
and
it was
I'll
coming
put
in
you on.
into my ears. It was very bad.
Oh my God, what are you
Um,
doing?
Don't say I didn't entertain you. We're gonna go back. We're actually gonna have
What did we
Donna
sign up for,
back
Jenny?
on.
I'm not sure.
Could John get up off the
You
floor
two
over
first of
there?
all,
Wait,
The wine horn.
The only shitty thing about this is I can't drink.
What did we agree to? What
Yeah,
was
we did with the
this?
phone.
What is this? What is going
You turn the volume on the phone.
Oh my.
This is
Yeah.
What this is
Oh, here.
related to.
What?
Here, Tom,
Mike's got him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But you can see your face.
Strong bell was.
We can't see your face.
I didn't mean to take off the shirt. Actually, I was wearing was one from Scott Wortman, who might be in the chat. Cool dude.
You can put it back on too, just so you know.
Once it's off, it's
Oh,
off.
Jesus.
You don't apologize to Scott.
No. Well, yeah, I should put it back on for Scott. Okay. So, and I want to talk to a book reader a little bit more about.
I feel like we're in this like conversation that we aren't really part of.
I don't think anyone can hear us but me and you.
I think that's probably true. Okay.
So,
Well,
we
maybe.
got-
It's, so, what do you think of the episode, Jenny?
I'm
Yeah, there we go. You guys
There's a
are.
delay. There's gonna be a delay. But
Hey, yeah, Jen. Please tell us what you think about the episode.
Okay. Well,
I'm not sure if they can hear us.
I don't think they
Here
can.
we go.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they can. Because it's like where it says Thomas, it's totally black. Like he's not in on this. He's still on his. I
We
don't
can
know.
hear you.
I don't know.
Oh no, they can hear us. They can hear us.
They can?
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a lag.
What?
Yeah, they can hear us.
Really? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear us? He's still on his. I don't know.
Oh no, they can hear us. They can hear us.
They can?
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a lag.
Yep.
Yeah, they can hear us.
There's a lag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a 20-second
Oh, it's
lag.
like-
It's
hear
really
you.
bad.
Oh shit.
Well,
No, no one can hear us.
Yeah. So we're gonna start. We're gonna start with Jen. Jennifer, can you tell us about your just general thoughts about the episode?
Sure. Yeah, so Tom just asked me my general thoughts on the episode. I want because there's a little bit of a lag, so I'm going to start answering this question a little after he asked. But no, I thought it was, there were parts I didn't like, but overall I thought it was,
There's a little bit of a lag, so I'm going to start answering this question a little after he asks. But
no, I was really emotional about it. There were several parts of it where I was crying. I'm really sad that it's over. I'm really sad that the whole series is over. I'm really emotional about all that. I thought it was really strange that we're still manning the wall when part of the wall doesn't exist anymore. I thought that was a little weird. I'm not sure how I feel about John's ending.
That's a good idea.
I really loved Arya's ending. I really thought Arya was going to be the one to kill Cersei, so I was actually really surprised to see Jon do it, which I think everyone else really expected Jon to do it, so I don't know why I was so shocked about it. A little disappointed that there wasn't a woman who ended up Queen of the Six Kingdoms. I mean, Bran's a good choice, but I kind of wanted to see a woman on the Iron Throne, or whatever is the substitute for the Iron Throne now. What else? I was pretty happy with Tyrion's arc. I always kind of wanted to see him end up as Hand of the King. Yeah, I don't know what else I'm missing. I was happy with Brienne's story. I thought the whole Dunk and Egg parallel, she was just destined to become, to wear the white cloak. And so I'm glad that she got to do that. I'm sure I'm missing Robin Aaron. He got old. So I don't know what else. I have a lot of thoughts.
That's good, Jen. Jen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, awesome. I think we're totally no lag free, everything. Laura, sorry. Thoughts on the episode? And well, hold on, Laura. Are there any drunk Italians in the background that wanted to shout something inappropriate? Bye-bye. No? Jen, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, we just don't have Laura. Okay, so while we work on getting Laura back, one of the things I wanted to ask you, Jen, was as far as what we just saw, right, in the last couple of seasons, we don't have the last two books, and I think a lot of people are curious as to what the last few seasons of Game of Thrones will mean for the ends of Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. Any guesses as far as what you thought the show did that we might see in Winds of Winter, and then what you think they got totally wrong?
So I think we will definitely see Mad Queen Dany in the books. I think we'll probably see that. I think we might get there a little bit differently, but I think that's probably going to happen in the books. I also have a feeling that Bran, being the king of the Six Kingdoms or however, I think that we're going to get there in some way as well. I think those two things. Other than that, I think it's all fair game, though, for the books still.
Now, we were talking earlier, I wasn't sure if you were on, when I said I got a very Azor Ahai vibe from the Jon killing of Dany. How did you feel about that?
I saw that. Yeah, I thought it was very Nissa-esque with him stabbing her in the heart. I did like that. I was surprised that he survived that, though. I thought he was going to die as well.
Gotcha. And then trying to separate your feelings of what was that? Is there some people screaming in our
downstairs?
So as far as just the show, separating the books, your thoughts on the series as a whole?
Series as a whole?
Yeah, series as a whole.
I'm always going to love it. Series as a whole. I thought that this season had its issues, and there were times when I felt a little disappointed. But series as a whole, I'm always going to love it. It's always going to be one of my favorites, and I'm probably going to rewatch it again starting tomorrow. And it's no matter how it ended, I was always going to love it. So. And
then, I know this is kind of putting you in a position. Do you have a favorite season? Because I have a favorite season, hands down.
I would probably say season 3 might be my favorite. Yeah.
I'm season 4, hands down.
Yeah. That area was where it was really good.
Yeah. I mean, I know we'll hear people say that, I think the last episode George actually wrote was The Purple Wedding, which was in, episode 4, season 4, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But, and I'm probably going to be wrong on this and I'll get murdered online, but I know for a fact that season 4 opens with 2 swords, which is one of my favorite episodes of all time. In that episode, you have it's a cold open with Tywin melting down ice, and then the episode closes with Arya and the Hound at the end of the crossroads. Arya getting back Needle, killing Polliver, which in the books it's I believe the Tickler, and then in between there you have your introduction to Oberyn Martell. You have the meeting of the Queen of Roses and Marjorie and Brienne of Tarth. What else do you have? I mean, there's so much. Oh, you have Jaime Lannister seeing his dad for the first time without his hand. You have Joffrey dying that episode, or not that episode, but that season in Purple Wedding, which is great. I believe that's also the Mountain versus the Viper, and I think that's the episode where the wildlings attack the wall.
Which episode?
Yeah,
it's a really good season. It's a
Yeah,
really good
for sure.
season. And I'm not trying to take away from season 3 because you have the Red Wedding and you have, but that's also part of what makes season 4 so great is that you're coming off of you're coming off the Red Wedding. Jen, I want to give you an opportunity to tell everyone watching, maybe like the 3 or 4 people who are watching, about the podcast you're currently doing.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the podcast I'm currently doing is called Vanished, Amelia Earhart. So Chris Williamson, he's the project director of another podcast called Chasing Earhart, and that's been going on for several years. It's about Amelia Earhart. He started this other one, though, which is a limited run. It's 16 episodes. The first 7 episodes, he kind of covered her life from birth. She was born in Atchison, Kansas, all the way to the beginning of her world flight. And then starting in episode 8, he wants to cover her disappearance. So the way he's doing it is he's setting up as a trial by jury, which is why I got involved, because I'm a defense attorney in Texas. So he called me and he was like, "Hey, I need an attorney to help me with this." And so we've been working together to try to do a little mock trial on all of the different theories about what happened to Amelia Earhart. And it's been a lot of fun, and I've got to talk to a lot of cool people. And yeah, we've released 10 episodes so far, and I'm working very hard on episode 11. And yeah, comes out every other Sunday. So next Sunday will be episode 11.
And Jen, you are going to be at next year's Ice and Fire Con, correct?
I am going to be at next year's Ice and Fire.
Better be.
Oh, there's Laura, yes!
I figured out my problem, I think.
Yeah, Ice and Fire Con.
Hey, Jen, I have a question for you.
Oh, there's Laura, yes!
I figured out my
Oh, Rory's on. Hey, Rory, we'll hang on for a couple minutes.
Hey, Jen, so my question for you is so you mentioned being a little disappointed there wasn't like a woman on the Iron Throne, and I feel ya. And I kind of noticed that in the small council at the end, there was one woman and 5 or 6 guys.
We did, yeah.
Oh no, you're right.
One woman, it was Brienne,
Mm-hmm.
and then
She's
it
not
was
even
I
on
think
the small
5
council.
guys. 5 guys.
You're right.
And so, how did you feel about that? Because I really noticed that.
Yeah, I thought that after all this time and all this buildup of women are powerful and women have a place and they can rule as well. We got one woman on the small council and we had the Queen in the North, and I thought we were still a little underrepresented.
Yeah.
So I felt a little hurt by that, but overall it wasn't too. I mean, it wasn't like a deal. That wasn't the reason why I was disappointed in this season. So just something that I noticed. So.
And then, Jen, I'm just curious really quick. Do you think Drogo is going to the Dothraki Sea or Valyria?
Oh, he's going to the Dothraki Sea. Absolutely. Okay. He's perfect. Drogo.
Yeah. And then is Laura on or was that Laura?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Laura. How many drunk Italians are over there?
What?
How many drunk Italians are at your house right
now? No one now. It's empty. Empty.
Everyone, Laura Brandos, she's another moderator from History of Westeros.
Hey guys, sorry about my audio.
No. I mean, we had issues as well. I had the pleasure of doing a panel with Laura at Ice and Fire Con. I also had a bigger pleasure of hanging out with her. She was a great friend for a first timer, and her friends there were they welcomed us and were very gracious to myself and no content. No content. And by the way, we really wanted to cut to no content. Sleeping.
Yeah, where is he?
He's sleeping. He's
sleeping.
He doesn't have time to even be bothered. I asked him. This is one of my best friends for anyone that's watching. I asked him as a personal favor, like, hey, could you come on? He came with me to Ice and Fire Con, which for anyone who's listening, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you need to go to Ice and Fire Con. Just book the
Best
ticket.
fandom in the world.
It is. It's a great group of people. And this is my friend Jimmy. He had never read a single word from the books or watched a single episode.
But he had so much fun, didn't he?
He had the most fun. He really had the most fun of anyone. And yeah, so no content, Jimmy. He got the nickname No Content. And I wanted to keep cutting to him sleeping throughout this, but we could not. But so Laura,
Yes.
now that we finally have you, let's hear your thoughts on the episode. Feel free to jump into the series, and also in between your thoughts on the episode and the series as a whole, talk to us about how you think it applies to the books.
Oh, that's so much. Okay.
Yeah.
I really didn't like the episode too much, but I just wanted a little more than what we got there. I was hoping that R plus L equals J meant something more than just like Drogon not melting Jon in the throne room. I liked him petting Ghost at the end. That was really nice. I was glad that happened. I was sort of confused because I didn't realize that it was Eastwatch, the wall that was melted, because I didn't pay too much attention to it. But I was kind of like, wow, the wall's still there. He's going back to the wall. It's crazy. But now I understand when people corrected me. But I thought the Tyrion and Jon's conversation was really good. I liked that. And
points for monologues. I think Eddie would have won the fantasy league today just because Tyrion had a bunch.
Yeah, he really did. He did have, and like, I just thought it was weird when they were all having their like pick of the king on the porch or whatever they were doing out on King's Landing. Like, no one even was like, Jon should be king. He's the. I don't know. It just seemed really weird to me. But I don't know if I see this happening in the books. Jon killing Dany was pretty shocking. I kind of was prepared for it, but I pictured it much different. So it was shocking. It was a shocking episode.
Yeah. Do you feel like Jon will kill Dany in the books?
Well, maybe, but if he is forced to kill Dany in the books, it's going to be like it's going to be much. I don't know. I just feel like with Val in the books is kind of like our build up to Jon's romance with Dany. I feel like almost like I don't really fully buy into Jon's romance with Dany in the show yet. There just hasn't been enough for me, and I feel like George will really kind of lay that out so that when Dany and Jon do meet, and if he is forced to kill her, it's going to feel a whole hell of a lot worse than it did tonight. Does that make any sense? I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I want to ask, did you get Alyssa Farman vibes from
Yes, totally.
Totally?
Yeah, and I got all excited. That was like my favorite part. I forgot. Thanks for saying that because I forgot about it. But I got all excited about her having some adventures because that's really the best thing that could happen to our Arya Stark. I'm very happy that she is taking on Alyssa's role because we all know George loves his parallel lives, and I feel like that is a definite Alyssa Farman parallel there. So
for sure. And then anything else that I know you weren't a huge fan of the season as a whole, but anything else you were just you did because
I did like.
we try to keep a positive spin.
Oh,
here.
I'm keeping it positive, baby. I'm keeping it positive.
You're doing really good at keeping it positive. I think we're all doing a good job.
Yeah. Well, I I really thought that the cinematography and everything was amazing. It was creepy as it was supposed to be. I just thought it was sort of strange that it was snowing for like 5 minutes and then it wasn't. And
Oh,
I thought it was ash at first.
Well, I think
And then
it's
it was
confusing,
snow
right?
at the end.
It was snow. It was definitely snow.
It
The
was-
dragon
Right.
snow that we were
Right.
like,
Oh,
there you
that's-
are.
Yeah, we-
And that's something I think, like when I saw that scene, I immediately felt like that was a callback to something in fantasy. I just don't know what. Maybe Lord of the Rings and Smog or something like underneath the
right. Yeah.
or the gold.
I don't know.
It was almost like a nuclear holocaust. It
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like the ashes still fall. I think it is ashes.
Well, yeah, and
it's like plumes falling from
Right.
the sky, like still days later.
Well, and,
But like only because they're exaggerating it to such an extreme. But
and Laura and Jen, you guys know more than anyone that the dragons have. Like one of the theories is that they're a parallel to nuclear war or nuclear weapons,
Yeah.
George's view on war, right?
weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
Right. And okay, so you guys, we're done. It's the season's over. I know that most of us are.
Oh, hey, Bex. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Yeah. So hey Rebecca, we're gonna go to Rory and Jess first, but if you're available and you're able to stay on, we'll come to you right after Rory and Jess. How's that sound?
I am here for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Bex.
Yeah, she and for the audience, Bex also said that this would be too raw. So
I know. I remember you saying that. I was like, oh wow, she's here. Yay.
So I'm glad Bex is here to give her thoughts. She's another huge just resource to the fandom. Laura, Jennifer, any parting thoughts? Anything that you feel you want to say before we cut to Rory and Jen?
I just want to know, do we think the seasons are back to normal?
I don't know. It's so confusing.
Right. Well, and you know, and like I think that's a good point to just really just hit on this really quickly, which is if you guys are unhappy with the way this show went.
No, I think she just meant like the literal season.
like
No,
winter, summer.
100%.
Okay.
I'm gonna get there, girls.
Okay.
No, but what I was trying to say is that, you know, like if you're unhappy with the way that the show is gone, the books are going to be so different. And I think one thing that really illuminates that point is that George has told us, right, that at the end of the books, we'll have some sort of explanation for the seasons, a further explanation. And so the show doesn't give us that at all, right? The show just basically acts.
Well, there was that one blade of grass that was sticking up, you know, in the very final scene. Like, did you see that when they were like leaving out of King's Landing? There was like a dream of spring was right there.
So I was really like, my mind was on this live cast, and I was like I was watching the episode in pajamas and probably not all the wrong things to get in the right state of mind to do a live cast.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, I did not catch that. I'll have to go back and.
It was like when they were leaving at the very end, it was just like through the snow. There was just this one blade of grass sticking up. So I felt like that was our little A Dream of Spring, you know, even though winter only lasted for like an hour in the capital.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those things that we're all in the books. I think will be rewarded with such a more rich,
Oh, sure.
description and explanation of everything.
Sure.
And so that's why if you are not a fan of this season and you have not read any of the books, I really encourage you to get into them. We're optimistic that we're going to get Winds of Winter soon. That might be like foolish naivety, but we are. And I promise you, even if we don't get it for another 10 years.
Oh my God! Please, not 10 more years.
even if it wasn't long, I feel like the five books that we have are so good that it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So go and read them. Jonna, we're gonna keep you up here, but you do have your wife is calling you. Laura and Jen, if you guys want to maybe stay on, that'd be great. We could maybe go back to you guys later, or otherwise we'll just see you in the chat later. Rory and Jess, are you still there? I know we're 15 minutes.
Yeah, they're in there.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
What up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah. This is the realtor of Papa Pappas that we have on. Rory and Jess. He's also sometimes known as my college roommate or Roar's 31. If you're on AOL, chat in some messenger. He's one of my favorite people in the entire world.
He married you guys too.
He was also the officiant in my wedding.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, exactly.
I think, I'm a pretty vain person. I'm a heavy narcissist, and he's one of the few people I'll say is funnier than me. So he has a lot of pressure to put on you tonight, Rory Bergs. Jessica, his beautiful wife, I think is joining us. I can't see anything.
She's on there. Yeah.
She's on.
Yeah.
Rory promised she was wearing something extremely revealing, so hopefully she's really cashing in on the promise for the audience there.
Oh yeah.
Do we know how many people we have live? Is it like 3 still?
It's probably like.
Well, it's more than 3 because there are people like.
There's -1 person in the chat. Somehow there's a
like 4 or 5 people that are like on video.
Yeah.
We keep losing people, guys.
People in the chat, y'all, don't disappoint our 7 fans.
No, 8. Like it's literally going down.
It's going down as we speak. I should have kept the Ultimate Warrior mask and my shirt on. Is that when we peaked?
Yeah.
Is that
Warrior mask?
20 people.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I think you missed that.
Okay, well, it's all right. We're gonna get like 30,000 people when this goes.
It's going viral.
It's eventually going there. Roar's 31 and his beautiful wife Jess. We're trying to just give a quick recap on your general feelings on this episode and the series as a whole. Talk to us.
Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, thanks for having us. I mean, definitely you guys are dropping some knowledge bombs on us. Just we haven't read the books. We're definitely only the show. But, we've been big fans for quite a while now. So I'm going to let Jess kind of give her quick thoughts. And, I'll drop my 2 cents in there too.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have already touched on a couple things that I was going to call out. I think just to summarize how I have felt about, especially the last episode, I feel like I've had such strong love and like I've been on this long journey with these characters for years. And I just felt like the beginning and the end of the last episode, I had some emotion, and the middle, it was a lot of what the fuck. It was like, okay, what the fuck? It's all of a sudden now with summer when it was just winter. Tyrion is now all of a sudden coming out as a prisoner saying it's going to be Bran. Jon's getting banned to the wall. I mean, I don't know. There was a lot more of WTF than emotion that I wanted to have for these characters as the final season. So that's kind of just a summary of, I was kind of disappointed overall.
And Rory, would you say you were disappointed or satisfied with the last episode?
Dude, I was kind of disappointed and kind of confused for a little bit there for a while. But the more I thought about it, the more I was kind of digging the ending and how things kind of ended up. When Bran, they announced or they voted Bran in or whatever, I'm like, what is this guy going to do? He's going to warg into a bird and fly over King's Landing and take a shit on everybody. The light's on, but nobody's home with this guy. So it's like, I know there was theories about like Bran being like the White Walker or whatever, but I feel like Tyrion is kind of taking on more of that king type of role. Even though he's the hand, I think he's going to be the big decision maker. And Bran's going to be like chasing dragons, and he's got his sister calling him out for his dick not working, and it's just a lot of weird things going on there. So, but I really kind of like the way that Jon Snow ended up with the wildlings. I thought that was kind of like his true people. I think that he even though he seemed a little uncomfortable at the end, I feel like that's just kind of he led those people. They kind of took him in and followed him, and now he's back with them. I thought that was kind of cool. So I think Jono mentioned the whole Brienne thing, or somebody mentioned, I thought that was kind of funny. She's writing this story. We just watched the clip that somebody said that she's kind of filling in his Wikipedia page, like at the end of the show. And she really should have wrote something like, Jamie came, she boned me a couple times, then he ran off and boned his sister, and the end. So Maybe something he could have gone with, but overall, I was. The more I thought about it, I was satisfied with it. So very satisfied and aroused.
Very good. And then, so that's the episode. And I'm curious, John. Well, and actually, John, since you've been up here and haven't said anything, do you have any questions for Rory and Jessica?
Rory, I didn't even know you burned, man.
About what?
Yeah, I didn't know you actually watched the show.
Oh, dude, for sure, man. Well, I was kind of bullied into the situation with your brother as well, too. So, he kind of pushed me over the edge a little bit.
Yeah. What do you think of the Arya ending?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fitting. I mean, she's after going through her training, and she's really just kind of I think it was pretty fitting for her to kind of go off and just kind of set her own story. I think that everything else is. Not that it's beneath her, but she's just like, she's her own person to go out and find, new lands and new shit to do. So I think that she's, I thought it was pretty cool. I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think I was super confused too, like how you felt. I think that was one of the words you used to describe your feelings, but I think that was a super confusing one for me. I know Tom talked about the parallels to another character in Fire and Blood, but I just didn't see any hints of that happening or why she would go and do that. I think after you kill the Night King and you can kill basically anyone, I don't know what's left for you there, I guess. Maybe that's why she's going off and searching for new things, because she can basically kill everyone whenever she wants.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Made her into that kind of character. I don't know. I was just confused about that. I thought Jon Snow's ending was pretty fitting too. But again, a Targaryen king just hanging out beyond the wall.
Yeah.
I
feel like they just, the whole entire, especially this last season, you find out that Jon is this, the rightful heir to the king. And then all of a sudden, within seconds, he's now just jailbait and he's getting thrown up. It all of a sudden, everything we've been working towards, I felt just pivoted, which is fine. But and I agree. I do think that Jon ended up where he should be. I think that's where his calling is, and it just that felt right. But how it got there was just how the whole season's been. It's just very rushed. It's oh, okay, now we're there.
Yeah. Well, and do we still have any of the book readers, Jen, Laura, or Baxon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
Real quick. So what number Lord Commander does this make Jon?
Well, he was 998th commander when he became Lord Commander, and then
Ed.
I don't really know if Ed count. I mean, I guess Ed. So then
I think
1,000.
I think Ed counts, so it actually makes if he's gonna get counted twice, it makes him the 1,000.
Commander. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a nice round number. I don't know what the significance of that is, but that's interesting. Just kind of thinking about it. And then I did have another question, but I totally forgot about it.
It's okay.
As we had people. Oh, and we have a question from the audience really fast.
I do. You were talking about how the books might differ, and you were saying that it seems like books will be different. But did you think that Bran being on the throne at the end was the vision that George R. R. Martin had for this? And if not, how do you think the books will be different?
So really quick, before I have the book readers answer, well, I mean, I guess there's no point in having Rory and Jess answer that. Book readers answer that.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that's what is in line for the end of the books. George has already said, the books aren't going to be that much different. It's how we're going to get there. But yeah, I think it's something up until a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine who's a show only guy, he was I think Bran's maneuvering everything so he can be on the throne. I was yeah. He was even saying even his wheelchair was a little bit of a symbolism of the throne in a way. And I was like, okay, yeah, explain to him Bloodraven, but I mean, George has said that the show is not going to end that much differently from the books. It's just a different way that we're going to get there. Bran is our first point of view character in the story. And I always knew like it would end with Bran. Like I've never like at any point have like been worried about Bran's like well-being. Like he's going to live. Right. But it wasn't until a couple weeks ago like the idea that Bran was going to be the one to do it.
Yeah, I always thought it was going to be Sansa, 100%.
Well, but like Sansa is always like she is is definitely going to be queen in the North, and I'm sorry, I cried like a little girl.
Her crown was so pretty.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. And I don't mean to interrupt, but do we? I wanted to ask someone that actually probably knew more than that. The crown of the Starks, the old crown. Does anyone offhand remember what the description is?
I think the description matches like what Rob's
crown, the bronze.
Yeah, it was like the iron. Like no, so it definitely was not the traditional Stark crown.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was pretty unique.
Yeah. And really quick, sorry, I don't want to stop these, but I do want to go back to Rory and Jess really fast. I do want to ask Rory specifically, and Jess, feel free when Rory's done to kind of jump into this. It's just Rory. We're just curious as far as Rory, if you had to choose the creamiest thighs in all of Westeros, and for the people out there who maybe don't know what a creamy thigh is, we're talking something nice and like a nice pale, hairless variety. Something you might see from here to here behind these jeans if I were to cut them open. It's a very nice, creamy, soft.
Go ahead, back at Ice and FireCon.
I didn't get to show them off at Ice and FireCon. I'm really hoping 2020 Ice and FireCon. The sun comes out. I get to get my cutoff jean shorts out, and we're gonna get real. We're gonna get real wild.
I've always suspected that you're a never nude, so.
Yeah, well, the suspecting that is accurate. Okay, so we're gonna have as Rory is about to answer our creamy thighs, the creamiest thighs, and this goes for dead or alive. For the people maybe the 3 people in the chat, I imagine that the 7 people have dwindled down.
11.
We got 10 watching.
11 people. All right, so we actually have grown it somehow. So we're gonna go Rory, the creamiest thighs. Who do you think has the nice, palest, soft, cool, like, you know, if you could put your head on them and it's gonna be cooler than your pillow. A nice
Yeah. The word you're looking for is supple, I think. And,
Supple.
this is something I think about almost nightly. It haunts my dreams. But I would have to say that it's got to be Varys. I think the guy. The guy is smooth, mostly hairless, no genitals. There's just something really supple and just nice about that. I feel like it would be nice to cuddle up with. A close second, I think is gonna be Littlefinger. The guy's manicured very, very well. He's got access to some good lotions, keeping his thighs super impeccable. But I'm gonna have to go with the Master of Whispers on this one because he's got some good intel on some really creamy thigh cream that hooks him up. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
Can I throw a wild card at you?
Yeah, please do.
Bran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and this is going to show my ignorance in quadriplegia is all 4, so paraplegia.
Yeah.
It's going to show my ignorance in paraplegia, but I don't know. I assume that hair growth still functions the same after you've lost the use below your waist. But if not, it poses a very interesting question because then his hair growth below the waist would have stopped at an age of, I believe Bran is like 7 or 8 at the beginning.
Yeah.
8.
Right.
7 at the beginning, 8 in the later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
I
just
think the
goes.
hair still grows,
Yeah. So, okay. So fair enough. I think we just have confirmation. We have a Google search. The hair still grows. So wild card Bran is no longer a wild card. He's defunct. I mean, honestly, if anyone else can provide a creamier thigh than Varys, I'm interested to hear. Is there anyone in the
I was
live
gonna say
chat?
Jon Snow.
Oh.
Oh, not like those sides.
It's not about who doesn't like it.
They're white as snow, but they're muscular.
Oh,
Like,
all right.
good creamy thighs.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Jennifer, Rebecca, Laura, any of you want to jump in on creamy thighs?
It's Roz. It's Roz.
It's who?
Roz.
Oh, Rob Stark?
Ross.
Ross.
No, Roz.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah,
Good answer.
Ross is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Ross
got
is.
a good look, actually.
Definitely one of the best like book or show only characters.
Inventions, yeah.
That's a good answer. I mean, we have that on video.
Yeah. I feel like a female's thigh is. I mean, it's like they shave, so there is a certain amount of artificial.
Do they shave in Westeros? Do
I don't
they?
think so. There's no mention of shaving anywhere. No one shaves.
There's also not a lot of body
Jon
hair.
Snow.
They're definitely
They pee in buckets. I don't think they're shaving.
Yeah.
No,
And they
why am I blanking on his name?
Sam's got it.
Baratheon. Baratheon.
What about
Robert's
the
brother.
White Walkers?
Oh, Gendry.
They should-
Gendry.
No, not Gendry.
Renly.
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 There was
Baratheon.
yes.
What about the White Walkers?
That was foreplay.
Lancel
That
and
was like really intense foreplay.
they shaved their chests. Fair enough.
I will make a book prediction for the creamiest thighs.
Okay.
Zoran duck sauce with his like jewels in his nose. I feel like he might have the creamiest thighs in all of
Reaches
Westeros.
deep.
I mean, you know, Karth is pretty isolated. There's not much sun. He's clothed. He's weird as hell, and he has diamonds in his nose. So I'm just going with that. That's my take.
And we saw Rory in the chat, right?
So Rory, this is a fantastic conversation. I like the Bran theory though, because now that he's king, you know, he's gonna have, you know, a lot more attention on his thighs, and I think that he, you know, he's at another level of creamy thighness, you know. So I like that, but I think there's a lot of good opinions on thigh creaminess in this chat. I love it.
And I'm going to cut to Bex and Laura and Jen. Do you guys think that the creamy thigh debate is ruining my chances of being a guest on History of Westeros?
I think it's increasing your chances, actually.
I think you're being properly respectful about it. I think like you aren't objectifying the creamy thigh. I think you're actually elevating and worshiping the creamy thigh.
My God is the God of the creamy thighs. That's a true statement. You can put it on my epitaph.
Yeah, no. This is definitely better than the Blackwood discussion.
Agreed to disagree. Agreed to disagree, Bex. And for those that are totally clueless as what the Blackwood discussion is, I mentioned earlier, I was not sure that Bex was going to be able to make it. She thought it was going to be too raw. But I did a panel, as I said, with Laura. She's another moderator of History of Westeros. We talked about our favorite sigils. Our friend Scott, who I hope is in the chat. Yeah,
he's in the chat.
Yeah, he's in the chat.
Do you want to take some chat?
Yeah, we'll take some chat questions. If there are chat questions, let's.
There's no chat questions.
Yeah.
Is there really?
What happened from the beginning?
Okay.
Jono didn't know.
Jono didn't know that so
There were a ton of
the first chat master had no idea there was a chat. But but the point being that we did a sigil panel, we presented Blackwoods, and I asked the panel first what their favorite Blackwood was. but not specific to characters in the thing. But I wanted to know who their favorite black penises were, and there was a word on the street that Beck was not happy about the question.
I was not.
She was maybe a little taken off guard.
I saw the video. There was some head shaking.
There was some head shaking.
Yeah.
There was also a lot of. I felt like it delivered, but
there was some laughter, some head shaking.
there was some laughter. But I want to get to this, Rory.
I was the laughter.
There was some laughter.
I laughed.
Rory, I will let you go, but for the 11 people watching, and maybe
Nine.
and the 100,000 that are going to watch later.
Cheers.
Right.
Yeah, cheers.
Probably Monday or
Cheers
Tuesday.
to that.
Rory and I are college roommates from Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa, and I think one of
Loras Tyrrell University?
Yeah, so this is where we're going. This is where we're going with it. So my big
I
thing.
know that's where you're going. That's why I said that.
I think everyone who picks up the books, their goal is to have their own original theory. This is my original theory, and Rory, I think, will be able to help solidify this. But we went to college in Dubuque. It was a small private school, a liberal arts college, and the reason why this is actually significant to the Song of Ice and Fire is in the same town that we went to school in, George R. R. Martin taught. He actually taught at Clark College, which was at the time when he taught there, it was an all-girls school, and Loras was the all-boys school.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And there is a quote from George early on where he talked about one specific winter in Dubuque, Iowa, that inspired him to write about, and he didn't necessarily say a Song of Ice and Fire, but just to write about a winter that lasted 10 years, or that lasted, extremely long. And my theory has always been that Loras Tyrell was named Loras Tyrell because at the time George was there, there was an all-boys school. All boys, I'm not trying to make synonymous with homosexuality.
No, not at all.
I was wondering where you were going with
But I do believe that because it was all boys, right? Just the fact that it's all boys, you can say someone who is who is homosexual and a male, he likes all boys. I think that when he's going through the lexicon of names, he's used so many that I like to think that perhaps Loras Tyrell was borrowed from my alma mater. Rory, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I was really kind of excited to learn about that. And the way he spells Loras is the exact same way that Loras College is spelled, too. It could be spelled in numerous different ways. So I thought that was really cool that he possibly could have taken that from our alma mater. And I read a few different articles about how what you're talking about, Tom. He eventually hated the winter so much. Obviously, he wrote, the books about him and now the series. And, he eventually moved to, I think it was New Mexico, because he was like, fuck these winters. I'm going somewhere warmer. And there's a place in Dubuque, Iowa called the Mines of Spain, which is up on this huge bluff. And if you're looking at it from the ground level, to me at least, it kind of looked like the wall, like just the way, the size of it, the way it looks. I don't know if that's just my kind of theory that maybe he took some of his other experiences in Dubuque and also kind of maybe possibly that into the book too. So I thought that was kind of a really cool history of him, teaching in Dubuque and maybe taking some of his experiences and writing that into his books as well. So pretty
obviously the people who are tuned in and are like the diehards know that it was inspired by Hadrian's Wall, but to Rory's point, like if you've seen Hadrian's Wall, it's not impressive, right? It's at some points it's like waist high. What Rory's talking about, the Dubuque, Iowa, it's this area in the Midwest where the glaciers did not hit at all. So it actually looks more like San Francisco than anything else in the Midwest. So you're talking about very steep hills. The bluffs that he's talking about are sheer 100-foot drops. It's really awe-inspiring, and Iowa is a really boring state, but that part of Iowa is beautiful.
It is.
I called it the armpit of America for the longest time, but I really encourage people to go there. It's a beautiful, actual place of our country.
Also Jersey too. I mean, if you grew up in Jersey like George did, you're gonna hate winter.
Right. Right.
It's like where I live, so yeah, I understand his hatred of winter.
So speaking of like George's personal experiences, how it might relate it to his storytelling. He's on record saying that Tyrion was his favorite character, and Tyrion having the line that he has a soft spot for, I think it was bastards and broken things.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
I did like that part. Yeah.
Bran the broken. Oh yeah, he's one of the broken things. And so if George was always intending for Bran to be the king at the end of the series, then do you wonder if he might gauge the reaction from the fans of the show and consider maybe changing the ending that he had planned to maybe be a different ruler of the kingdoms? Or do you think he sticks to his plan, if it was that, to keep Bran on the throne?
Well, and just before I kick it over to the people in the chat, I think that's one of the big things, right? That's a debate within the fandom right now, right? Is whether or not part of
Are you smoking, Bex?
I am.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. Bex can smoke.
Just kidding.
Bex can smoke. But part of the people are concerned. People are concerned that part of the delay is due to George retconning, right? George watching some ill will because the show surpassed when he wanted it not to, or just due to the fact that, imagine this, and this is, again, not unoriginal thought, but just imagine this. You work your whole life as a writer to create something that is huge and that people pick up and they relate to. And then you're successful at it. And then what happens is someone else, in essence, finishes that magna opus for you. I like to consider myself a failed creative, but thinking of that happening, I can't think of anything more tragic. And the fact that it's happened, I think, is what fuels a lot of the speculation that people have come up with, that maybe George has seen what they've done and now he's going back, and because he told them this, he's going to rework it and make it happen in a different way. I actually hope that that's part of the case, but let's start with Rory, because Rory, I know you haven't read the books, but do you hope that, as someone that potentially may pick up the books in the future, that the books may end vastly differently than what you just saw and ended in the show?
I could certainly see that happening. I think that obviously there's been a lot of outcry from the general public about this past season. And Tom, you and I have talked about, maybe some of the reasons why this season might have been rushed along or limited to 6 episodes. But I think that would be awesome to get another vantage point, and something that's, at least for me, because, like we've talked about, I want to start picking up the books as well. I think that could be really satisfying and really kind of go that extra mile that maybe this season might have missed out on a little bit. So, yeah, I think that would be awesome.
And then, Rory, before we let you go, anything else about this season, this episode, the Game of Thrones series as a whole that you really want to, that you felt we didn't touch on, or that you want to get off your chest before we let you go?
No, man. I think that, you guys are definitely dropping some knowledge on me. I think there's a lot of missing, there's a lot of holes here and there that I think, for me, by reading the books and picking up, A Song of Ice and Fire and just kind of getting more character development to understand a bit more what's going on is something that I'm really interested in doing, because it is super interesting. And, in this fictional world that we're all kind of obsessed with, I want to kind of dive deeper a little bit more into it. And I think there's a character out there that probably has creamier thighs than Varys, and I want to figure out.
It's Tormund.
Spoiler alert. Dive, for sure. We're gonna have to start coming up with some different genealogies that might help us suss out who has the creamiest thighs.
I'm gonna get the experts here on that in a second. We're gonna see who they feel has the creamiest thighs, and the odd thing is, I feel like Rory is going to be strangely vindicated. Varys wasn't even on my radar. I don't know why. Maybe just sheer neglect.
It makes sense, though, right? Come on, think about it.
He's probably, in the current story, the best candidate for creamy thighs.
I have a question for the book readers, though. And it's that with George R. R. Martin having not finished the series yet and dragging it out for seemingly unwarranted amounts of time, I had a feeling that maybe he didn't really know the outcome that he wanted, but now I think he did, because I think he did want the Bran on the throne. So I've come to that thought. But I wonder, is he just dragging it out then because he knows that it's the most important and prominent series that he'll ever write, and he just wants to stay relevant for as long as possible? Because once he finishes it, I mean, is he just, the guy who wrote Game of Thrones and that's it? Right now, he's still peak relevance.
Who wants this question?
For the next series to come out. So why would he finish it and then just, go out to pasture when he could still be one of the most desired writers in the industry? I'd like to hear.
He's in his 70s and sick.
Yeah. I wonder what the
So, I mean,
he's not sick. He's some of the book readers
He's
think about
old,
that.
right? So he's kind of past retirement age.
Yeah.
So he could be trying to milk it, but it's also what are you milking? Right?
His life. I mean,
all right. This is
death. I mean, do we all work for that?
I would love to hear Laura and Bex and Jennifer's thoughts on this.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there are a lot of us in the fandom who have total faith in George, and we get a little defensive once we start hearing oh my God, he's so old and he's fat and he's gonna die. But really, going back to the original point, I think he does have the ending of the series. I don't think that Dan and Dave are. I don't hate them as much as everybody else, but I don't think that they are. I don't think they could have gotten to this ending on their own. And he might he might be retconning things, but these books are so complex, and even Dance Dragons took what 5-6 years, Laura?
Right.
Yeah, longer.
7, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 7 years.
Yes.
So it was he was writing that book before the show. So there's these are really deep, complex books.
But I think I heard that he was going to lock himself in a cabin.
Wait, I just wanted to say something about what you guys were talking about, the cripples, bastards, and broken things before.
Right. Yeah.
This is what I always imagined in my head because Tyrion designs Bran a saddle for him to ride a dragon. And in my head, my head, Endgame, I always thought 3 heads has the dragon. There was 3 heads to the dragon. They were Tyrion, Dany, and Jon. And that Tyrion would take his own saddle design that he made for Bran for him to ride a dragon. And I sort of got excited in that one episode of Game of Thrones where Tyrion sort of had a little pat session with the dragon. I thought that was kind of coming to, oh wow, it's really happy, because I always thought that the dragon has 3 heads meant that there was 3 dragon riders, and there would be 3 people, not necessarily Targaryens, who would ride the dragon. And I thought that his saddle design would come into play later in the game, and kind of disappointed that yes.
Do you think Tyrion's a Targaryen?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know, and I honestly don't care. It's just I don't. If he is, he is. If he's not, but I thought that him riding a dragon, didn't really matter. I don't know. I don't know if he is. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
I've never been a fan of the Tyrion Targaryen.
I haven't really been either. I just don't think. I don't necessarily think he is, but I wanted him to ride a dragon because I thought that the saddle design thing with Bran would play out.
Yeah, but also they're not using saddles, which is bonkers.
Yeah, it is totally bonkers. How are they fucking staying on them?
Well, even the fact when in the books when he gets on Drogon after puppies.
The direwolves on the set.
When she gets on Drogon, afterwards she's burned.
Yeah.
She and even like even in Drogo's pyre, like all of her hair.
Right.
That's the one thing I've been watching the season with a friend of mine who is not a book reader. He's show only, and I'm constantly like pausing and being like, all right, this is weird.
Is Jen still on?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Jen, can you give your feedback on any of these questions? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that it's I think I agree with Rebecca. While it's possible that he's retconning certain things, and I think he might actually be. I mean, I know he's made comments about places that characters will go that it's not possible anymore because they're dead in the show, things like that. And I think that does in some ways, like what's happening in the show and fan reactions, I think in some ways it might affect how he's writing, but I don't think it's going to at all affect the end game. I think that he's had that in his head since the beginning. And I don't see why he would change it. I also don't see what he would gain from delay on purpose. I don't.
So Jen, then in your mind, do you feel that Jon kills Dany? And I know you mentioned earlier that she goes Mad Queen.
I think I think she will.
So, and then you also think Bran will be the one that sits on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think all of the ending, like all the major character arcs, the way they ended, will probably be the same in the book.
Do you think that Jon also is sentenced to Night's Watch again?
Oh, I don't know. I still think he might die in the books.
Okay. I mean, and also, was there a bigger surprise to anyone than Grey Worm being alive at the end of the series?
Oh, that was like my biggest prediction for this episode was that wasn't like Dane was gonna die. Arya, I knew Arya was gonna sail west. But Grey Worm.
You knew as in like a leak, or just in
no, I
your
knew.
stomach?
In my soul.
I ignore all leaks.
And Bronner, you read all these, right?
I only saw one leak, and it was that Bronn was going to be on the Small Council.
Unfortunately, I saw all the leaks, and I just pretended like I didn't see them. As unfortunately, when you are a moderator of the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit, you are subject to all leaks, which I am.
Laura, you are doing God's work.
Yeah, Laura. Hey, if anyone is in the chat still, please.
No one is.
So we do have a question from the chat, and it's our good friend Scott.
Yeah.
Scott, I love you.
Scott asked, how does everyone feel about democracy being formed?
That's not really democracy. What
No,
happened?
It's a republic, right? That was one of my questions, right? It's a republic. It's a republic, right?
Well,
But it's not really, because none of the people that sat on that voting area were voted for.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
That was a porch party. A porch party discussion. I'm sorry, but it wasn't very.
You're done. I'm gonna cut you off. Like it almost felt like they could have done without that scene. It was just like a what?
Fans of Outlander probably loved it, right?
What scene are you talking about?
He was giving a little spiel there, and then Sansa was just like, "All right, you're done.
She shut it down.
You're done. We've heard enough from you.
Sit down, Uncle. Sit down, Uncle."
And it was just like, why? Like, what did that like the plot or anything?
I was watching it.
The shot. I thought it might turn into like her being like, "I'm gonna be the queen," actually, but instead it's just like, no, be rude.
So
got places to be. I'm going back to Winterfell.
Honestly, hold on, and guys, I actually thought that was some of the best non-verbal acting in the whole episode, because there was a scene, there was a scene that we're just talking about in complete depth. But if you go back and watch it, there's a part where Sansa's eyes kind of shift, like, "Yeah, Mr. Tully, back to your seat," and he just goes back, and I think it's. Like
okay.
We have so many issues with everything, right? Like whether it's like the writing or the acting or just whatever it be. I thought that was superb acting by Sophie Turner. Sophie Turner my spirit animal, chugging drink at hockey games.
Queen in the North.
In honor of Sophie Turner, I'm gonna finish my drink. Eddie, Queen of the North, finish your horn.
I'm gonna raise my glass to the Queen in the North too, because her crown was so pretty.
I know. So, it was.
I love Sansa being queen,
Tyrion,
but I also love Edmure, so that kind of saddened me.
You know, my friend that I was watching with, for a second, he actually thought Edmure was Littlefinger.
You thought Edmure was what?
Was Littlefinger.
I wonder if the actor that played Edmure Tully was just like, I'm not coming back unless I get a line. Like, was that the purpose? Just like, I'm not doing it unless I get a line.
No, I mean, like, his character, like, what happened to Edmure was like kind of like up in the air. So
okay, yeah,
I kind of felt good. I didn't mind it.
I like Edmure a lot, so I feel like he was kind of not portrayed very well in the show.
Right.
But, you know what? I'm a totally fan.
You could have at least finished the monologue.
They were my people, and they were afraid.
No, I was happy with the way that scene ended. The faster that scene ended, the better in my eyes.
And also how they laughed off Sam Tarly when he proposed to the mother.
Also,
just saying.
But here's the thing.
Can I be honest? Because like a satire show, that was probably the moment I got most scared. And Mike, I know you're off camera, but I'm curious. You were someone that was very critical of the season, and I felt like had they gone into that democracy where everyone votes and they just go that way, that would have probably been the most frustrating thing to me.
Yeah.
That I think could have happened. And not because I didn't want it, but just because I felt like it was so outside the realm of what was realistic. And when Sam pitched that, I was my stomach dropped. It was the first. There's been a lot of stuff in Game of Thrones where I've thought like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this, or especially once they got away from the source material. But that was the one thing that I literally started to feel embarrassed because I've been such a stan for these books and for the show that I thought, holy shit, they're about to do the thing that I thought they would never do. And then when everyone laughed, I got the biggest sense of relief. I want to go back to what you guys feel like happened. Like, how do you guys feel about that moment? Were you guys relieved, or were you guys wishing that it would have gone the way that Sam had proposed?
So, can I that? I actually like the idea that like Sam proposed something, but I also like the fact where there was a lot of realism, and it's like we can't go that far. Although there was a little bit like, can we talk about Robin Aaron?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Let's talk about his grown up ass. I love Robin Aaron.
I know. Like the whole time.
Does he eat real food now? I'm curious.
I need a picture of him because I want to see what he looks like as a grown up.
Has been sucking on boob, and unfortunately, for him, for every audition, like everyone's gonna be like sucked on boob at like. But I like that he was there, and I even like.
Wait, was that really him though? Like, was it really him? It was. Oh my god! Okay. Wow. Okay.
Well, you know, Game of Thrones has a very deep history of pulling different actors. You know, with the
I know, but I just couldn't tell if it was really him or not. Like, he's so old.
If it's really you, then it's really real.
Like going back to the question, like I kind of like that, like they made a nod to it. Or I think I like the episode more than everybody else who's talking about it right now. But like, yeah, I like the nod. I like the nod where it's like there's something better where everyone chooses, and then everyone laughs at him, and it's like, all right, baby steps, and and even the fact like when Tyrion proposes Bran and Sansa's like, well, he can't have any heirs, and it's like, yeah, fuck that shit.
Yeah,
like,
I'm glad that Sansa pointed that out, because that's my biggest problem with the whole thing, is that he cannot have any heirs.
Well, I'm not even sure that that's necessarily biologically or physically true. I mean, Bran might have been able to speak up for himself there. I have a feeling
He kept quiet though, so we can assume.
Yeah.
Very specifically said,
Now that Mira's not there to change his diapers, he's gonna be. I'm just kidding.
But
no, Bran very
No. But I mean, someone had to be.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, Mira was his diaper changer. Mira changed his diapers. And he sent her away, and it was so sad.
Thank you.
Now Podrick does it.
know about my number twos. You gotta go away.
Oh, can we talk about that? Like, Podrick's now a sir.
I know, and Podrick is now the wheelchair pusher of the realm, or whatever.
Hold on. Brian pushed him in. Brian's the wheelchair pusher. But no, I mean, like, there's a couple things that I think are really cool as far as like how the books play out. Podrick being named a Sir, that happens off screen, off page. I think that Bran filling Jaime.
Brienne is the commander of the King's Guard.
Yeah, and that's just kind of like,
but
I mean, to a lot of people who aren't like paying close attention, they may not know that that's like the significance of her sitting there looking at that book and writing. But
yeah, I wish they would have shown her being named. Like,
I definitely, but also like
I figured she'd stay with Sansa. I didn't know she would leave her.
But I also understand, like, like having her sit there and like writing it, and then you realize, like, oh, she's the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, and like,
yeah, I get it. I would love to have seen him like make her his Lord. I want a ceremony. I like the ceremony that George paints.
It's like visual storytelling. Like, you don't want to see every like step of everything, and even the fact that the White Books survived.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh my God, how did the White Books survive?
It's on the tallest tower and it's made of paper. I was a bit, I was curious.
Oh God, it's all so bad right now. How did that survive?
So, outside of some continuity errors, which I think we can all.
They rebuilt that castle pretty fast too.
Sure did.
They sure did.
Unsullied.
I know one of Scott's questions before the episode aired was the scene where we have the vision of Daenerys entering the Red's Keep, approaching the Iron Throne.
Ash or Snow.
Right. Ash or Snow. We talked about that. But do you guys feel that what we saw in today's episode was what she saw in the vision of the Undying?
Well, obviously, the Red Keep was more destroyed. Like, there was a lot more destruction.
No, because I think that they changed their plans. Because her original vision was she went to touch the Iron Throne, and then she looked and she went to the wall and she went north. Remember?
Oh no, and I agree with you. I think, like, in the book,
I don't know. No, I mean, not in the book. I mean, I'm in the show. She like went to touch it, and then she like walked out to the wall with Drogo.
Well, I was like trying to make it fit in my head, and she did reach out for the throne, and then she was killed, and so that kind of fits with her going to see Drogo.
I think the order of events like is going to be a little bit different in the books, but she goes into the throne room, and the one thing that I said to my friend, who is not a book reader, I was like, oh my god, she's gonna sit on the throne, she's gonna get cut.
Oh yeah, they don't do that in the show. No one gets cut on the throne in the show.
Yeah.
It's
I
only
like her. I loved her talking about how if there were really 1,000 swords, it would have been much bigger than that. I love
yeah,
little.
that was like a total joke. Oh my god.
Is anyone
like show my friend like this is what the throne really looks like.
Whoa. Hey, is anyone as excited as me for like a fandom picture of what Daenerys's vision of the throne looks like?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's already one out there.
I think like her vision of the throne is like actually what George's vision of the throne was.
Yeah.
So you think that was quite meta?
I think so. Yeah, it was.
100% that was meta.
Okay, so you know, I know you guys came on a little bit after we talked about a few of these points, but I want to get your guys' opinion on them before we go off, which we're probably going to do soon. I hear my son.
Yeah.
My son's crying in the distance.
Oh, gee. All right, we can go.
No. I mean, we've had a number of people. Like we have an entire team that are dedicated to Shepherd at this point.
Can
power of Essos, so I'm really quick. One of the things I'm most interested in hearing you guys chime in about is Tyrion's walk from where he says, "No, I'll do this alone." Is that Cersei's walk? Is that the same walk as shame?
No.
I didn't get that instinct.
Okay.
Aside from that, it's like hers obviously started at the top stairs of the Sept, and the Sept has been destroyed. Right.
I just thought. I mean, I don't know why I had that gut instinct. Okay, so we'll walk away from that. Did you guys feel as though if Jaime and Cersei had stood like just over by the skull that seemed to be totally non-touched by the debris, that they would have been okay?
Yeah, like there's areas in that place that didn't get touched by falling rubble.
Right.
They might have maybe dodged and weaved a little, and maybe they could have.
Like the whole
zigzag. It's all about the zigzag.
Well, protection.
It's zigzag.
Maybe
even more specifically, like in a very cavernous room, it looked like they stood under the one spot that fell underneath.
Cersei was like,
I'm so glad you noticed that.
like, no, look at me.
No.
Look at me. We're standing here.
We're the only ones that matter anymore.
It's like, no, but the ceiling's falling right above us. No, look
This is a survivable event. Come on.
Yeah, it's literally not falling like 3 feet
No,
over
we
there.
can move here.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Look at me! Burn them all! King Slayer! That video was really good. And
I was
then
disappointed there was no wildfire under the Red Keep.
there was no, but we did get
We got a little bit of wildfire.
Yeah, we got the spontaneous burst outside.
I wished it was more prominent. Not necessarily like for the pyrotechnical reasons, but I wished I wished it was part of the plot more.
But at some point, it's like she used the wildfire already.
She should have.
Yeah, like where like had like King's Landing like totally gotten like waylaid by wildfire, I would have been pissed. I would have been so upset. It's like, no, we've done this like 2 times already.
And then you guys get a blood raven feel from Jon at the end.
Oh, actually got a Bittersteel vibe.
Bittersteel.
Well, because when he obviously got on the boat to go north.
Yeah.
And Bittersteel, like he got on a boat to go north, and people rescued him.
Yeah.
That's what I was like feeling in my soul at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone
else?
And he's the new Three-Eyed Raven's brother, so.
Well, and not so much from a three-eyed point, and maybe even the better parallel is like Mance Rayder, right? The guy from the Night's Watch who then goes and lives amongst the wildlings and immerses himself.
Well, I think that George, because I have not been introduced to a love affair with Daenerys Targaryen by George, so I am totally accepting of the end of him going amongst the wildlings, because That makes sense to me. I felt like, honestly, too, not to be like bringing the show into it, but his love affair with Rose Leslie was obviously more believable than the chemistry he had with Emilia Clarke. So I feel like I.
No.
No.
Yeah,
You don't feel
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that, there is so many times in the books where John refers to himself as a wildling and half a wildling, and he belongs with the wildlings. So I think that, I kind of like the idea of him ending up with the wildlings, in just that's what I know, and I don't know, I'm okay with that. So.
I'm okay with it too. Oh my god, can we you need to give a couple moments talking about
Sorry, I have to go to the bathroom though. A minute.
Oh, go pee. No, we have to talk about they had
on the camera right now, and she's like, oh god.
Yeah, it's all right.
And to be fair, like,
oh no, Shep. Oh,
yeah,
are you Shep? Oh, buddy.
Yeah, he's my guy. He knows the live stream's happening. It's all right. You guys keep going.
So yeah, their chemistry, like, I think, like, because they knew, like, oh, this is incest, and they couldn't pull it off like the way that like Lena Headey and like Nikolai pulled it off. Like, oh my god, like Lannisters do incest better than Targaryen.
They do. Well,
yeah, John was awkward as fuck.
Yeah, Lannisters are.
Yeah, John looked like pretty repulsed. I mean, he was definitely not looking like he was into it at all.
So I know.
He told it at the end though. He told it when it mattered.
Right? Yeah.
But the thing is, I actually believed it then too, and so did he, and that's why he got her.
He did. He got it.
Yeah, he did. Which that was shocking.
So yesterday I convinced a girlfriend of mine who's never watched the show, never read the books. I convinced her to watch the first episode of the show. I was just like, let's watch it. She's like, cool. And
and this was the Waymar Rice Matt Damon debate.
Yeah. Well, like that was like the first comment. I was like, all right.
The very first comment.
This shit. But at the very end, she's like, all right, that guy's hot, and he's he's
dead.
And I was like, yes, they're twins. And then he pushed Brad off the wall, and she's like, oh my god, we need to watch the next episode.
Yeah, we were talking about favorite seasons earlier. I think actually season 1 was my favorite. Season 1.
Mine too.
Yeah, that one. I mean, it hooked me right away.
Well,
I have a very special place in my heart for season 6 because of the John Sansa reunion.
Yeah, and I believe that was also the season that ended with Danny walking out of the fire. Season 1.
That's the same episode.
Yeah, and I mean,
the
symbology, like how she's changed, like since then, like she was such a leader. I was literally standing up, clapping, worshiper of Danny myself.
Yeah,
and then she turns into the all black leather Mad Queen. It's tough to see.
Well, it's fine. Like, so I've never been a huge Daenerys fan. Like, I like her better in the books than the show, and I guess, like, in a way, like, I was always expecting, like, oh, this bitch is gonna burn everything fucking down. Like, she's not as good as everyone thinks. Oh my god, Chef's so cute. But I was super moved by the death scene. I was so moved by the death scene, and I guess, like,
that was probably the best, in my opinion.
And Drogon, like, I cried a lot in this episode.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Becca. I don't mean to cut you off, but I totally forgot to get Laura and Jennifer's takes on that Drogon scene. When
is nudging her and then scoops her up so gently. You guys are both moms, right?
Yeah.
So
I have cats.
right, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Hey, Matt. In fact, I'm trying to take anything away from you. You want to say that, like, I got my little guy on my lap now, and I mentioned earlier in the stream that I watched that, and it was impossible for me to separate myself from being Danny and being done and dead and having my one last connection to the real world, the thing that I've created, my son, my daughter, scoop me up gently and carry me off. Jeff likes to drop things. You're the best guy dropping things.
I am currently holding a cat that followed me down the street and said,
She likes to drop things.
well, no,
Drop like a mouse at your doorstep or like a dead raccoon or possum.
yeah, no, he was like, you're taking me home and you're feeding me and taking me to that 2 times a year.
Right. So that scene was so
Yeah,
powerful.
it was.
It was so powerful because I know something that relies on me in that manner, and then I saw it happen, and like I said, I envisioned Shep's little toes picking me up and carrying me off. So Jennifer, Laura, you guys both have children. Rebecca, you have cats, which are really as important as children. Talk to me about that scene, how it impacted you. Was that powerful? Did you guys feel it was cheesy? What did you guys
No, I thought it was really powerful. And as a single mom, as somebody that I'm the only adult in the house and I have 2 little boys, legit, one of my biggest fears is something happening to me and an adult can't get here in time. And I'm just in my house with my boys. And it's something that's very unlikely to happen, but you can't help but think about it. And so that scene definitely, I got weird PTSD flashbacks from my worst nightmares.
Right?
Yeah, it was a very powerful scene for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely sad for me. I was thinking that before that point, I wanted to be sad. I hope this end would make me emotional. And it was oh my God, Drogon nudging Danny is going to make me cry. And that's really weird. But it reminded me of how I would feel if something was to happen to it was like her child, trying to wake her up. And
yeah.
Oh God,
So Laura, did you envision Lily kind of nudging you?
Yeah, mommy,
right?
mommy, wake up. Nina and Lily leaning over me, and oh jeez, yeah, it was awful. I was I was totally crying, and I was sad that I hadn't cried until that point. I thought I would cry the whole episode.
That was early.
Really hard for me.
So maybe it's because I'm not a parent nor a pet parent, but I was really hoping that Drogon would see, obviously his mother is dead, but I wanted him to not just leave, but to be like, okay, John, you're a Targaryen too. I guess you're mine now. I'm yours now. And then, I would have much rather seen John ascend to the throne than Bran. And all it would have taken was
Me too.
John to be recognized as the conqueror who overthrew the queen. Or Tyrion could have taken that same way too if he was responsible for the coup. But also that if Bran, who told John in the first place about his lineage and the truth of it, would have just said, Tyrion defers to Bran, Bran defers to John. But instead, Bran just says, yeah, I'll take it. That's what I'm doing here. Yeah. I didn't like that ending. I would have much rather seen Tyrion or John take the throne.
And what's actually, I'm super interested to hear the book reader's opinion on Tyrion being completely left out of A Song of Ice and Fire. Right?
That was
huge, right?
So at first I thought they were doing a Hobbit thing where at the end, the book that we've been reading is the book that's in his hands. But then when they were you're not in it, I was well, that's not the same book then.
The only thing that as a book reader that I noticed because of my influence of Aziz and his parallel lives, I really found myself noticing a parallel lives here in that Jon, I know that a lot of people don't believe that his real name in the books is Aemon Targaryen, but I totally believe it's Aemon Targaryen. And I've totally noticed a parallel between Aemon Targaryen, who rejected the throne, chose the wall, but left his brother, the unlikely, to take the throne, which
That's a very good
is
parallel.
and that's kind of what came into my head. Actually, just as you guys were talking, I just sort of thought of that, and that Jon even thinks a couple times in the books that he is not. He says, like, I am not Aemon Targaryen. I'm not, and he
was
plays-
offered the throne and refused it. Aemon
Right.
Targaryen did. Yeah.
I mean, like, so I think that Jon in the books might be offered the throne and refuse it and decide.
Well, in the show, he was offered it by Varys.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
But so that's my parallel. I'm channeling Aziz for my parallel life.
Can we do a really quick shout out, because both Jennifer and I are wearing shirts by Sanrixian.
Yeah, Sanrixian.
I almost wore mine too, but then I'm wearing my my other one. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we can just shout out Sanrixian really quick, she's one of my. I mean, if she's probably my favorite artist from the community. She's tied with Ed Sheer. I love Ed Sheer. Hey, Mike, can you hand me that picture right there? Yeah. So I have Shep on my lap here for the end of the show. Here's Ed Sheer did this. It's me as Hodor and Shep as Bran. I think it's fantastic. Ed Sheer, Sanrixian, Michael Clarfield, hands down, my 3 favorite artists from the field. However you want to split it. Those guys are worth a follow. I promise that I know I don't have their links to their Instagrams in my feed now, but I'll go back and I'll make sure I get both Sanrixian, Michael Clarfield, and Ed Shears. Sheppy, do you see you? Where's you? Where's Papa? Where's the ugly guy? Papa. All right. Either way, Shep's got a little bit. But yeah, it's we have a really great community. If you've tuned in at this point, you're probably good. So I'm not even gonna to have to go on and really.
It's okay.
Elaborate at this point.
All 3 of you still here.
I definitely cried a lot this episode, more than I cried in any other episode. I cried. I mean, I cried when when Jon killed Dany. I cried when Drogon flew off with her.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed a lot with Edmure Tully, who is the Gob Bluth of Westeros. I cried so hard, like when I have my misgivings about like Bran being the king.
Yeah.
When like Sansa's like, oh no, we're independent, and I was like, I just kept like silently yelling, "Queen in the North, Queen of the North." And they started shouting "Queen of the North." I was just like, mess.
That's such an easy opportunity. Like I said, Tyrion could have been recognized as like the leader of the overthrow, like the conspirator, I guess, or leader of the rebellion, I guess. He could have had a claim to the throne that way, perhaps. And they could have consummated the marriage that never was. Just if they
no. Let Sansa marry someone she wants to marry. No, sorry.
What's that?
I'm like Sansa like gets to marry somebody that she wants to marry.
Oh, but okay. See, in the script in episode 3, when they said
no
that you were the best one, or like maybe we should have gotten married. I thought it was to them actually getting married.
Yeah, like I'm like part of the Sansa hive, and no, and I would have been like my two biggest things: if Davos dies and like Sansa and Tyrion get married, I'm done with this shit.
Can I ask Jennifer and Laura who you would like to see Sansa end up with?
Gendry.
Gendry.
On the show or the
wow,
book?
right behind Arya's back, or I mean, not that Arya would care, but man,
Okay.
Gendry and Sansa would be the hottest sex on the face of the earth.
Okay. The hot.
He
I don't know,
already
I
had
really-
sex with her sister, though. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, no, like we'll ignore that.
Okay, fair enough. And then, really quickly, I have an 11-month-old who needs to go to bed.
Good night.
Yeah.
I actually want to get home and rewatch as much as I can before I conk out.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything that we haven't covered that you guys feel that you need to get out at this point?
Final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts.
Nope, I'm good.
No final thoughts. I'm just tired and my computer's about to die.
Final thoughts,
Oh
Johnson.
my god, I have so
Good night, you guys. I gotta go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
What hasn't been covered?
Bye-bye. Bye.